Chapter 7, and I'm calling the Board of Health meeting to order. We have one variance hearing and then a number of other things to discuss. But I'm now going to announce items to be added as not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of this meeting. So we have 5 items for adding: an emergency waiver application for Pine Hill School, a Tripoli update, a new well application for approval, building application for approval, discussion with Marion Neutra, representative from the planning board, about the open space subdivision. So, is there anything else anyone would like to add? Can we have a motion to add these items if you so choose?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so Mary, thank you. Actually get right on this and let you go to the next one.
All right, thank you for putting me on the agenda. We are still hoping to put forth a revised and improved open space subdivision bylaw and regulations for the spring town meeting. But, and we've moved forward on a number of things that will, I think, make the revised bylaw much more palatable to everyone, but we still have a lot of work to do on it because we really have to get it right if we're going to do it. And I've spoken with Daryl about collaborating with Board of Health, and you've heard about this before several times. Sorry to be repetitive, but it's the only way to move it forward is to get I think a subgroup together, representatives of Planning Board, Concom, and Board of Health together to hash out the details, because we're not going to put it forward unless all 3 of these boards are truly on board, so to speak. So we want to work as a subgroup because it just works much better. We're not tied to regular meetings. And we propose 1 or 2 members of each of those 3 boards commit to getting together as needed and as your schedules allow to follow through on this. Planning board is absolutely ready to go. We've already done a fair amount of preliminary work, and we're really willing to do the heavy lifting all the way through. But we're hoping you can identify at least 1 member, hopefully 2, that can participate in this. And we'll try to make it as schedule friendly as possible. We find it is advantageous for us to, when we can meet periodically during the day with Gino present, because he's such a fund of information about what our legal parameters are at the state level and within the planning board rules. So I'm here to make that request. Thank you.
So I will say, so we have 2 members who were not able to make the meeting tonight.
So we're signing them both up.
Yes. Which they would probably like to do, but we should probably run it by them. And then anyone else is interested in being on and having a little trouble keeping up with other things that we need to get done, including Tripoli has kind of taken over the time that might have gone to finding the consultant that we would like to have to help us with this very matter. So,
Absolutely.
So I'd probably like to stay on that topic myself, just so that moves along and as a support mechanism.
Yeah. And I would say I've got a 4-year-old and 7-year-old, and if I sign up for anything else, I'll be murdered. Or they'll take over the house, one of the 2. So.
Patricide, yeah. Right.
You can think about it. We don't have to get an answer now. This
For
is
the
just
subdivision committee.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're hoping that it could be someone who from time to time might have some time during the day, because evenings are so busy for everyone. And I know that's not possible for some of you, but
So I think
That's
it,
our hope.
right, I agree that it's in everyone's interest too. A
Yeah.
collaborative group, so,
We need
so
to
we'll
think
just
about
have
it
to
because there
relay
are
it to
so many
the
other
other.
projects
Yeah.
right now.
Right. And do you think we can get this started within the next few weeks? Your next meeting is in about 2 weeks' time or a little more.
Well, I'd like,
So
I can,
if you
actually,
could,
maybe I'd have to have Ellen, have you contact the other two board members?
Yeah.
If I contact both of them, although it's an administrative matter, not
I think
a
we could forward
decision-making,
Marion's
but-
email to the larger group from Ellen and kind of, because that's part of the public record, and just say, if you're interested, please get in touch with Marion. Does that sound okay?
that would be great, anytime,
Okay.
sooner the quicker. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you. Okay, let's see. Are you here for a particular issue?
I just saw the topic of the letter about the lead
Yeah, yeah.
construction, so that was, I just came
Perfect.
for that.
So, what was that? So, have you had a chance to see this?
I thought they were, I liked them both. I had a comment, let me see if I can find my notes, it's been a while now, so I don't know. I think that it would be very helpful to have that available. And it is confusing because people do think it's a, I had a subtle wording question, and I want to know what you think about this. Can I mention it, or?
Yeah.
Wait. So in the third paragraph, at the bottom two lines, content are strongly recommended, and based on the blasting agent to be used, analysis for blank are also recommended. Wait. Sorry, that's not the. This is too big. Sorry. Is it? Oh. Anyway, I'm sure I can remember it if I just, but I had it highlighted and I had it written. Sorry, Daryl. Oh, here it is, okay. What about breaking it into two sentences, so it's a little bit more, I mean, it's clear for us, but it might not be clear for others. The question is, the results of the analyses are a reference point, period. There is no requirement to submit to the Board of Health or other entities. So then it would clarify that it's not a permit, it's not a requirement, it's just for your own baseline information. I was wondering what you think about that. So I might have just confused you because I took that
No,
delay.
okay, so that was the fourth paragraph. Okay, now I'm understanding
so,
that.
In the goal of your baseline sampling would be to establish the quality of your private well water immediately prior to the proposed activity. The results of the analysis are a reference point. There is no requirement to be submitted to the Board of Health or other entities, including, whatever, people involved with the contractor or the butters or whatever. I didn't know if that might make it a little bit more clear to somebody like this property owner who would, or maybe a baseline reference. Just to clarify that it's not,
Yeah, that could be. I mean, I guess we could also have it, the goal of your baseline sampling is to establish a reference point regarding the quality of your private.
yeah, I mean, it's mostly, right, I think that makes it clear when, and I only broke it into two sentences because it's just shorter, more. Each statement is in freestanding.
So, I mean, I'd be okay with something minor along those lines. Do you have any?
But obviously, the content is like, I think the content is great. I like the way it's written, so thank you for doing that.
All right, so you could either do 2 sentences or have the goal of your baseline sampling is to establish a reference point regarding the quality of your private well water immediately prior to the proposed activity.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
Yep.
yeah.
Do we have a motion to amend, any other
Think-
things?
What I had highlighted,
Yeah, that
For
would have to be done
clarification.
depending on what they're doing. It would either, let's
So-
say they're doing blasting and they're
Yeah.
using blasting agent X that they're supposed to submit
Could
something
you-
to us about. And it would depend on the ingredients, should not have perchlorate.
yeah,
There might be, I don't even know, I
Oh.
haven't looked at them.
So when-
Yeah, it
so
would
we-
have to be dependent on what they choose, and they need a safety data sheet.
So what I would say is, I worry a little bit about, like, if we get somebody who submits that, how do we get the answer to that
Yeah.
question? And then,
quickly so that it can be
So it can be
noticed.
served. process.
Included in one
There's
one
supposed to
sentence,
be,
just say,
in the regulation
or
says there's a
blasting.
permit application form, which we don't have a permit and it's a permit application form,
Oh, right.
which
And-
indicates a permit.
which is different
Right.
than we interpreted it
Yeah.
as internally.
Right.
Okay.
But the regulation says a permit shall be required, and then a permit application form must be completed and submitted. So, I mean, I imagine they
So that
could
would
list
actually be
it,
the
something on the permit application. We need a draft. I don't know what, can you draft a permit application form also? Because I don't know what it would.
Well, I also think we're going to be, so I think that this is, I think one is the question of the intention of the regulation, and if we're
Yeah.
going to be revisiting that, I think that, like, I think we need to revisit it to update for the applicability for single-family
Oh,
homes.
yeah.
So I think that we
Yeah,
should
that's
also
right.
say,
Yeah.
right now, I think that should be on the list of things that we say when we revisit that in a public
Okay.
hearing. I
Okay.
think kind of describing, is the intention to say that this is a permit or an application?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you'd raised at the last meeting just the questions of, when something's a permit, there may be legal implications that are that. So I think that that would also be a question I'd want to put to town council for guidance in advance of the public hearing in the draft language to say, you know, does using permit language here create a different set of circumstances for potential applicants? Because I think our intent is really that there is notification
Right.
and that there's a plan, not that this is a, you know, somebody's objecting to your permit, here's a set of
Right.
like, here's an appeal to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that our intent was to say notification's the goal, not stopping somebody else's project, just because that gets into a whole litany of
Yeah.
other complex issues.
Okay, do we have anything else for which there's an application but not a permit? Just the application is received, or,
we just have requirements.
because everything else we have
Yeah,
application then
and a
permit.
permit,
Yeah.
yeah.
Then application, permit.
I
So-
can't.
And
Think
what
of one.
about, I was thinking, what about including, and just another sentence that says, if blasting is relevant or applicable, then no blasting should be used. Just have it there so you don't have to remember to add it later if it's applicable to a case. So if it's not relevant, they can just ignore it. But if it's there, we don't have to
Oh, well,
remember to tell them.
Um,
Or do-
That may be where this is, say, with one sentence, and based on the blasting agent to be used, analyses for nitroglycerin are also recommended. Period. That would be version A. Version B would, these analyses are recommended, period, no blasting agents will be used, or something like that. Or if they just note it on the application, which
Yeah.
they say blasting agent, yes or no, and then if they are using a blasting agent, an
I just-
SCS,
I-
just so we can confirm what the agents are.
But I just worry that
What?
like that puts us in the middle of a lot of pieces where I think we're sort of
Mm-hmm.
saying, our goal of this isn't to say Board of Health is responsible to define the water testing.
Right.
Like, I think we want to give guidance so people have a sense, but
Yeah.
I think you wouldn't want to say,
Okay.
oh, this is a blasting agent that I didn't know about, so
Yeah.
there's a
And what
secondary.
percentages are they major? How about when we come up with an application form
Yeah.
that it just says, it directs them to provide the Board of Health with a copy of the safety data sheet for the blasting agent to be used, which I gather is not your issue, but, and
So that would
then
be
it's up to
available.
them. Yes, so it's
Them, the
available
abutters.
to abutters.
Okay.
To
So
come
we'd
in
ask
and
them-
look at, something like that?
So we'd ask them to submit the safety sheet, have it available. If folks wanted to do it, great, they
Right.
could. But we're not, I like that, because I don't want to be in the middle of
And then it could be a
like,
sentence that says there's that available at the Board of Health office if you want to see if there are other
yeah.
water quality parameters that you want to test for.
Yeah, because I think the intent is to say, we want abutters to have opportunity, but it's really their choice of what they want to test, and I don't
Yeah.
want to be responsible for saying, this was my complete list of everything you should test
Yeah.
for, and then
Yeah.
5 years from now, there's some other blasting agent or some other data, and they're like, well, why didn't you say to do this? And
Yeah, that's good. And some of the agents, I know this from blasting agents,
Yeah.
but not this kind, are transformed by virtue of the explosion.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
some things persist and some things won't, and for us to analyze that for all those situations, and some are at, 0.01%
Right.
or something, so it's complicated to figure out, but, okay, so our strongly recommended period for the manganese, iron, and bacteria.
The regulation notes nitrate for select metals and nitrate. So do you want that in the letter? And the notification shall notice that such
Yeah.
owners may conduct baseline water quality sampling and analysis for select metals and nitrate.
I think if it says it in the regulation, it should be in the letter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so what are select metals?
Well, iron
Manganese.
would qualify, yeah.
So it sounds like if it says
Manganese.
iron, manganese, nitrate,
Nitrate and bacteria.
that'd be compliant. And then can we get clarification from town council in terms of the application versus application and permit, and whether there are separate legal duties and risks associated for the permit seeker versus an application? I think the term that was used last meeting was appealability.
I think Eric Gilmore, the builder, had mentioned something. I think the words he used was maybe order of conditions instead of a permit.
Okay.
Throwing it out there.
Yeah. Because I think the,
Orders of conditions in the Conservation Commission world are quite binding. But maybe there's a nuance
Right.
there on,
I have no.
that
Yeah.
you've taken an action and do
I know.
it, but.
Yeah. but so I think if we can get,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
and I think that, and then let's plan to have the kind of proposed ledge disruption regulation revisited on our next agenda meeting, because I think
Yeah.
David's at the next one, right? And he's sort of our
Yeah.
ledge champion.
Yeah,
And so we can also plan to have that on the agenda for that meeting to discuss I think it was the section 3 amendment, to sort of expand from sections 8, 12, and 13 to include section 10 under section 3.3. But maybe we can have that. Does that sound okay with what else we have on the docket for next time?
I don't think
No issues.
there's.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Sound good?
yep, and then, again, so we'll have something that if a blasting agent is used, then there's an extra sentence or whatever that will affect how the paragraph
Reads.
wraps up.
So we'll sort of have two versions, version 1, no blasting agent, version 2, blasting agent. The blasting agent letter will include a general notification that says,
There
a blasting
is-
agent will be used, the SDS for this should be available at Board of Health,
Yes,
as opposed to saying, in this letter, we have to make sure, okay,
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
yeah. Okay.
I think that sounds good.
Okay. All right, any other
questions,
not there
concerns,
yet,
feedback?
and it'll be talked about again next
Awesome.
time.
Yeah, this is for, so if blasting's not done, this is still,
Applicable.
right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Because it's just the,
Active disruption. Blasting makes it worse, but both present potential
because it in-
challenges.
yeah, it introduces other chemicals, but just that exposing more surface
Yeah.
area of things to get
Yeah.
dissolved essentially by rainwater. So,
So,
or carried.
have a great night.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right.
Give me your, thank you. Thank you, appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Oh, look at that. I don't think we can do anything in 40
Yeah.
seconds, can we? Any agenda items for the next meeting? Other than the one just mentioned?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything
Okay.
that I'm aware of yet.
Okay.
Perfect.
So,
But there might be a variance hearing. Is there a variance hearing? No, it's not. It's the second meeting in October. There's already a variance hearing.
okay, so noting that it's 7:30, we have a variance hearing for a septic replacement at 71 Harrington Ridge Road. Are there any abutters? Okay. Even if you're not in a butter, if you'd like to come up while the engineer is presenting the information, please feel free.
Good evening, Dan McIntyre representing the homeowners at 71 Harrington Ridge. They're in the process of making the home ready for sale, and they had a Title V inspection. Just didn't pass. This is Harrington Ridge Road down here. The driveway comes up here. 5-bedroom house. The existing system is in the front yard with the septic tank. We're proposing to put it back in the same location because of the number of constraints on this lot. The existing system is a gravity system. It's actually down quite deep in the water table. We're going to be putting a pump system to bring it up and have a pressurized system. Couple of things of note, which kind of concerns with the mill, is that we've got the underground electric comes up to here. We've got the gas line that runs across the front, and that up front. And then during the original construction, there's an under drain system that goes along the yard and along the street and just goes into a catch basin down here. Which I think was installed to try to lower the groundwater table. I don't know how effective it was, but it was running.
It's a lofty goal.
Looks like not so effective from what you've found so far. Gets 2 feet before it was only 22 inches. We're doing great.
Yes.
You plant a tree, you get a pond.
You know, each meeting, I think you can't top the list.
Yeah.
But this is quite a collection of things that we haven't seen.
Yeah.
Gas and electric, so.
I think the next septic system is going to be like a houseboat.
So we're proposing an alternative technology to take advantage of the reduction in groundwater offset on this particular lot. We're using a geomat system, which is a pressure dosing system, so we'll have these lines actually under pressure, so we pressurize the whole field, so the whole field gets effluent during each dose, which is a very effective way to distribute the effluent. So,
Where's their well? Oh, there it is.
so that's
Boy.
one of the ways
Yeah.
that we asked you for.
And I assume once you swing that arc around, it uses up the whole back end of the property.
It does. And the back end of the property starts to go up. It's not a friendly site.
And then in terms of the gas service pieces, it seems like that is a contributing factor, but even if it weren't there, it would remain challenging.
It would. We did do a test pit kind of over here, I think we might be able to do something over here. But then we ran into the drain and the gas service, and it was just best just to leave it where it is now.
And not try to cross those lines, so.
Right.
Okay, well, yet again, a tight squeeze, so Mark, anything in particular?
No, I'm glad Ann explained, it's the first time the board has seen the plan with the geomat system. I'll try to get some pictures to be able to, you don't have any pictures, do you, Dan? It's a newer product, we've seen GeoFlow.
Here, but it's kind of a thinner system. It has kind of a filament mat system. And then we have a small diameter pipe, as I said, it has pressure distribution, so it squirts water into this filament, and then it filters into the soil, and then it's wrapped by a geotextile around it.
Interesting.
So, with that said, what'll be interesting, Dan, is to see if anyone's certified when it comes time for installation of geomat.
Yeah, there's been a couple installed in Holliston.
Okay, so they're on, good, okay. I was gonna say, get them on the horn if they're not.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, anyone have any questions before we go through the?
I would just say that one of the, Dan's been conservative, one of the first waivers is not required on the plan. That's the leaching bed, Dan? You're using pressure. I know you always do, and that's okay. I just want to advise the board that we do allow pressurized IA technology in bed formation without a waiver.
All right, so do we not necessarily need to vote on that then?
Thank you.
I mean, you can recognize it, but recognize we changed the code a few years back to allow pressurized dosed systems.
Yeah, I feel better recognizing it, I think, than
Yep.
voting on it.
It's fine to keep it on the plan, I don't see a problem with it, just,
Okay, so we have a motion to recognize the first item, or let's just recognize it informally, because it's. it
Oh, the
is
first
approved at the
request, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So
So you don't wanna
rather than
just-
voting.
You can vote it, it doesn't matter.
But you have to vote in a variance if it's already an approved.
Yeah, I don't want to kind of.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so you're
So,
saying.
so I think the board will
not
determine that a variance is
necessary.
not required.
Yeah. And you're withdrawing the request?
Yes, I'll withdraw.
Okay, but you recognize.
The second one is required for 2 percolation tests. We did one in eliminating a layer of the soil. The second one, it was a more sandy soil, more pervious soil, but the groundwater table.
So do we have a motion to grant a variance to 5.1D?
So moved?
Second.
So that would be for just allowing only one per test. Mark, I assume.
I'm
that's-
satisfied with that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next one, you mentioned that groundwater's high, and so there is a 2-foot offset, which is enabled by this technology under Mass DEP. Yep. So do we have a motion to grant a variance to 8.01?
So moved?
Second.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
And then 8.02 is very similar, so do we have a motion to grant a variance to 8.02?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then the well is up gradient and sandy soils as well, or?
Well, 8 minute per inch
No,
rate,
it's 8
so
per inch.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
it was good soil, it's conducive for septic systems at an 8 minute per inch rate, but the well is up near the locust plan if you can't find it, it's at the top of the plan there.
So it requires 125 feet on the Sherborn so we will get 110 feet.
Okay. And, assuming since there aren't any others on here, that all the other neighbors' wells are
It
fine.
does have the
so-
statement that there are no other budding wells within 200 feet of the system is shown.
It is. All right, so do we have a motion to grant a variance to 10.1A?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then there are three waivers. Let's see, so do we have a motion to grant the variance to 15.405 1H?
So moved.
Second.
And that's the same,
That's the
2
same,
foot.
it's the 2 foot offset groundwater. Under the local.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then,
The last one is the offset to the subsurface drain.
Mhm.
Under Title V, it's a 50-foot offset. We were able to achieve a 25-foot offset, which is one of the other reasons we went with an IA technology to try to treat the effluent in case it does reach that drain.
and so there are no barriers in between there, but is the
No.
drain at a much lower elevation than?
It is quite low, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're looking at grade, the 25 did it off to the side, we're expecting that the effluent was going to come to the downgrade. So that we have 32-foot offset, a little bit more, but still not quite the same.
Marking issues.
Well, and it'll be going through the IA technology, so it'll be cleansed to some degree even prior to being cleansed through the soils, so I don't see an issue with this.
Certainly improvement for the soil.
Yes, I was just thinking that, it's more significant. Okay, so do we have a motion to grant a variance to 15.4051F?
So moved.
And I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll close the hearing and
Oh,
on
yeah. Did we do the 15051H?
Yes.
I heard 1F, so that's why.
No, they did the H
Oh,
before.
Okay, got ahead of me. I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about that drain.
So, okay, so I'll close the hearing and we'll just plans ready for approval.
With the condition for a deed recording both for the garbage grinder and alternative technology use.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the plan subject to receipt of those 2 deed recordings?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Can't wait to see what comes next.
It's going to be a houseboat.
Who was here next?
Okay, so,
I don't know who was here first or second, third.
Gary
but
McLaughlin was.
Gary, so
I don't know who, I don't know who.
I think he was here before.
Yeah, he,
is there, Gary's first on the agenda though, but whoever, who's, I don't know.
no, I don't
who's
think
the-
it matters.
I know
on the
Gary.
agenda. Okay, so you're here for which?
24 Ivy Lane, Tom Turner.
20 Oh, okay. So I believe you were here before
Yeah, he
everybody,
was.
so, okay.
Which one's that now?
24.
24,
Ivy Lane.
okay. Thank you, I need some help. I've seen some of you, but not others. So 24 Ivy Lane is an interesting building application request because the basement is already finished, they want to redo it. The issue becomes the house size is basically size is a 4-bedroom house, but back in 1993, the board had a different policy back then. If the septic system passed Title V, they would allow a bedroom, so they allowed another bedroom. So per Board of Health standards back then, and Ellen and I looked back, couldn't find the actual vote, could we? But
No.
But it was on, the reason I know that it was on this form, the same control form that we use today, and notes were on it about allowing for the 1 additional bedroom with the septic system evaluation. So that was 93, and
Oh, so that, because it was built when the septic systems were sized differently, so it could accommodate an
probably
extra
was that,
bedroom or
because it
something
was
like
built
that?
when the systems were very large back. The system was built, that was 93, but the system was built in 1973, the systems are a little larger. And this is the original septic plan, and it shows the septic system for 4-bedroom house, and 1, 2, 3, 4 along the lines. I didn't do the calculations, I could, but they were 75 foot long, so that's a lot of square footage. They're 3 feet wide, they were 12 inches deep, so.
But I think and the prior board had made the determination to say
So
this
it was-
system can be
it was
5
okay.
bedrooms.
It was what the board decided on back then, so, but what we have is that, I just want to pass it by the board, because it's unique, that, we're dealing with something the board allowed, but we're also accepting it under today's standards, so I just want to make sure the board was okay. It's, according to the building application, it's for safety updates to basement, carpeting on stairs, adding railing, handrail for stairs, new vinyl flooring, fluorescent lighting, and so forth for energy efficiency. No changes to walls are already existing, so.
And no changes to total conditioned space.
Correct.
Okay.
So I don't,
Is the room count okay?
room count's up for,
For 5.
what happens, the room count's up there. I counted it now, I got 2 of them on my mind, but you have the basement, and then there's a bedroom over the garage, so, and then you have your 4 bedrooms here. I'm reading upside down. These are bedrooms or these are bedrooms? These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8. I'm doing this upside down, 9, 10, 11, because we count the kitchen set.
Okay.
So they're right at their 11th room, too, if you're
Right.
considering a 5-bedroom.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted
So my
to pass
thoughts
But
are
it's
this sort of.
fitting into the tallies and.
It is, but I want to pass it by.
Yeah, yeah.
It's-
So I would say, I think just for the purposes of consistency, I think the key features here are that a prior board opined and approved it in 93. We're not adding or changing the total conditioned space, so I don't think, I think the kind of updates aren't intended to say here are significantly different patterns of flow. And so in that setting, it sounds like we just need to be consistent with the prior board. Whether or not this board would reach the same conclusion with the de novo decision isn't the question. A prior board did reach a decision, weighed in, and that's been true for 25 years, 26 years. Okay.
And-
Passes the sniff test for me.
and-
So I'll approve it based on the decision of both the board and my recommendation.
Okay.
You may see someday a house coming in with 11 rooms that was 4 bedrooms with no approval by the board, and that may
Yeah.
come to
Right.
the
That'll
front,
be a-
and
a
then
different challenge.
case by
I
case.
I think that prior decision from the board is the key piece, because I think otherwise we sort of fall into where we've gotten guidance from the state, which is,
Which says, depends on what's on record.
Yep.
So you
Right.
have that on record. so.
I think in this case, because we have Board of Health records, the assessor records are moot. Okay, that makes sense. Sounds good.
Okay.
Awesome, thanks, Mark.
That's it.
That's terrific. You mentioned conditioned space, so actually what that is.
So like, if you said, I've got an unfinished basement, but 20 years ago you said, I had a 5-bedroom system and now I'm adding rooms,
Yeah.
then the question you start to ask is, are you changing the design flow? So are you changing either with your pattern of use or a future homeowner, the amount of bedrooms that would be using this?
Habitable space or something.
Yes.
Right, and so in this case, you had conditioned space that remains conditioned space, and you're not changing your room count. So I think, even if you were, it wouldn't mean that it was impossible in this scenario based on the decision of the prior board, but that makes it simpler of, I'm refinishing a space that has been finished, and it was previously approved under the auspices of the board in 93.
Okay.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it does, yeah.
So if you were adding a 12th room, that would go to a 6-bedroom. That would be difficult to allow unless there was some conditions to it, or deed recording location of it, but I don't know if that's your interest or not.
Not right now.
Okay.
Yeah, what I would say is
Or a
like, that,
screened porch.
Right.
That
Yeah,
Oh, that would
heated,
count as well.
a heated.
Well, so-
No,
if
a
it's high-
screened porch would be, it's
Right.
not conditioned.
but if you then say,
It's
oh, we're
not
turning that
habitable
into a
year-round,
solarium, and so now we've got windows, and we're just gonna put some
Yeah.
heating in there, but then it gets hot, so we're doing a little air conditioning, you sort of get this slippery
Got it.
slope that
So if
turns
we
it.
ever wanted to do like an addition to the house or something.
Then it would get tricky, and I think there's some strategies there that can be used, but I think when we do that room count, we're there's scenarios that are specific to Sherborn about rooms on a second floor,
Okay.
but there's a general rule from the state, which is the total room count divided by 2 is the number of bedrooms, and so for you, if you're 11, you go to 5.5, we round down, but if you added a 12th room, then you'd go to 6, and so even with this, it would be tricky
Okay.
to get to that, because you've got a 5-bedroom system that with the current guidance we have from the state, the approval that the board made in 93 isn't the approval we'd make today, but that doesn't matter because the board did approve it in 93 and it's not our position to revisit that.
That's great. All right.
Awesome.
Appreciate the clarification, thank you.
Absolutely, have a good night.
But you could always put another septic system in there, it could be a 6-bedroom, but you already have that 5th bedroom over there.
Yeah, but I think the other thing people sometimes do is either consolidate, like, that becomes a room count question, so if you say the space, like, I am totally happy turning the basement into storage space to get this addition of habitable space or another bedroom, or turning 2 rooms into 1 room, it's not a square footage count for this purpose, it's a room count.
Got it.
And so,
And you can always call and you can go over those variations.
Yeah, to the future. I don't want to belabor a hypothetical.
That's fine. I'll sign the control form tonight and leave it with the building inspector, and he'll go from there.
Okay.
I believe that's all you needed. Yeah, just my signature, and then it goes to the building commission.
Okay. And then for planning purposes then, like next week?
Well, give him a call tomorrow.
Okay.
And he's usually here after 5 or so, and he should be able to give you some update on
Okay.
that.
I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much.
have a good night.
Okay.
Who's next? You next? Okay, 198 South Main Street. The board had seen this septic plan back in 2017. The system was installed, the house was knocked down, a new house was built. It was a 4-bedroom house. And Gary's the builder for the property, and it's 2 considerations for the property. 2 building applications came in. The first one is for the basement, and I don't see a problem with that. It's the second one, but they're adding a full bath. Let me just open the plan first so you can see what's happening. Gary, you can chime in too.
Sure, thanks. Can you give me any information?
Yeah, if you want to come up here, and anyone else.
And sometimes so now I'm reading it my way, but it's easy.
Everybody signs in.
This room's heated,
Sure,
correct?
everybody signs in. Okay.
Gary, so I believe the sunroom's heated, correct?
Yes,
So that
it
counts
is.
as one. They have a master bedroom on the first floor, then they have a living area / dining. That all counts as one in my view, because the kitchen dining components.
Yes.
So 1, 2, 3, nothing back here but the mudroom and dining room.
Wait a minute, isn't it 1,
Yep.
2,
Yeah, that's correct.
3, 4?
4, yep.
Okay,
3 in a bedroom or 4.
okay.
And then upstairs, for the other 4 bedrooms, they have 1, 2, and 3.
3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms.
So they got basic 7 rooms.
Yeah.
So they could have, they could add on, because new
So they had a 4-bedroom system is what was there, house was turned down, new house is built,
Yeah.
and now it's
They
a,
didn't put many rooms in there, they only put 7.
okay.
So
So, and it's already
Now
at
they-
4 bedrooms, and they're adding non-bedrooms.
now they want to
I presume.
finish the basement, and what they
Okay.
did is they put a hallway here, so the bathroom, full bathroom,
Mhm.
is down a hallway, and they're adding a family area and an exercise area, all one area, but labeled with 2 functions. So even so, they could go to 9 rooms. So
Yeah, but
these-
the bathroom gets tricky with the
That-
full bath, to
that's
kind
what
of say
I'm
like,
going
this
to.
is also like the au pair suite,
and
not
if
for
I-
you, but for future
And if I
homeowner.
can.
Or studio apartment.
Yeah.
They want to do one other thing
Accessory
too,
unit.
so maybe I should add that now before any
Yeah,
decisions.
may as well.
They would like to do something in the barn which will include plumbing if I can, so we'll keep this here for now.
Okay.
And then let's get to the second application that came.
So I just want to make sure, so in existing house, it sounds like all agree there's 7 bedrooms, 7
7
rooms, of which 3 are bedrooms or 4 bedrooms?
4 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms.
Yes.
We're then adding the finished basement space, which has, we're saying, somewhere between 1 and 2 rooms and a bathroom
A full bath.
and a full bath.
And now in the barn, which is separate from the house, they would like to have some plumbing because the person that Gary is representing would like to see an office in the barn and a dog wash area. So, and a half bath. And a half bath. Gary, where's your half bath? You wrote it down?
Yes, I'm sorry, I have bathrooms upstairs.
Oh, it's
Eight, nine.
upstairs, so.
So this seems like
First
we're
floor
at-
is an office and a dog wash area. I guess they raise dogs is what you.
Yes, she has show dogs. She has
Yeah.
show dogs, so.
Is she here?
She's right here.
Oh,
So maybe-
Who's here?
So we're at 7 in the house, then we're going to at least 8 versus,
8 or 9.
so
Yeah,
8,
see that
we're then
basement.
9 here.
Right.
And then
Okay,
9
this
here,
is
and
good.
then upstairs they want to put, what's up here?
I just don't see, how do we get to 9 with a 4
Stairway's
bedroom?
open, and there's a dog control, and the building inspector comes through once a year to make sure that the animals are safe, so this would never be turned into a bedroom. Because they're.
I mean, right now, but 10 years from now, different homeowners could totally turn into a bedroom because you sold the house and they don't raise dogs. But I mean, like, you've got the office in there. So I think like part of it is that, like, if you think about the last system we talked about was built during Carter, I think the Carter administration. And so like, we're many, many years later. And so it's not just your pattern of use that we have to think about. It's, this is our ability to act and regulate over the lifetime of your septic system, which could be 40 years. And so,
So my question is, if
Yeah.
they was just retired here, could they do a deed restriction if you think that somebody else is gonna take over or just maybe make it a bedroom?
well, I think, so for me, it's, there's a piece of what do we do for your property, but it's also what do we do that's consistent with every other property in the circumstance of I'm gonna retire here, we love it, we'll stay here for 30 years. We
It
can't.
really is about what people will perceive.
So it seems like the plumbing in the barn
Current use.
isn't, like, in terms of the parts that feel tricky, it seems like any room count that gets us above 9 is prohibitive. The plumbing in the
I
barn,
need to
yeah,
add one more thing,
yeah.
and that's one thing that just came to mind. The engineer, when he designed the plan, did not request a garbage grinder waiver. The plan is, the certificate was issued, let's see, for April 27th, excuse me, 2018. So there's the opportunity maybe for some engineering in this situation, which didn't come to mind when we sat down. Mostly everyone asks for a garbage
Right,
grinder.
so I want to make sure, so
it's
if,
660.
if there's a garbage grinder built into the design, and you need, well, so we kind of hope, if that happened, where that makes it easier is if you add a deed restriction to that, which we often do, that may have design flow that's available to turn it from a 4-bedroom to a 5-bedroom system in terms of the way the system is
Possibly
built.
even a 6-bedroom. what they said.
Yeah,
So,
It was a
and that
four-bedroom,
would solve
garbage grinder.
all.
Yeah, I never even.
And it's
so
not a
involved.
good thing for your septic
Yeah.
to use a garbage grinder because it clogs up
Do you have a
and your
garbage
system
grinder?
will fail much sooner, so.
I never used it, I had it made over,
Yeah.
because it was approved previously,
Yeah, yeah.
and I never used it because it's just common sense.
And so when they build the system for that, they're sort of having to account for all the food waste that is not being processed by a human before it hits a septic system. And so that is a dense load, and so that's why you can have that overbuilding.
This all came to mind just
Yeah.
now, because I was thinking they
No,
put
that's
another
right.
extra line in, because the system's
It's
not
so
that
new.
old. I said, wait a minute, this system is without a garbage grinder. So they got a very large system here, 660 gallons capacity.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there's a chance that, I don't know how the board would want to handle that, but you've seen the design, I think it does increase the bedroom count.
And was the four-bedroom system built in the context of a failed system?
They were replacing the house, let me see when this is a good question.
Because I think, so we also have a general pattern of, you can add +1 when replacing a failed system. So if you had a 4-bedroom system, you replaced it, we would say we would approve that for a 5-bedroom system, because the intent is not to say, I'm replacing a failed 3-bedroom system with a 6-bedroom system as an example. And so if you're replacing it without, yeah.
Ellen, do you remember, usually you
I
like to
remember that it was a
choose.
ranch house.
Yeah,
Walk behind
So
them.
that.
Our expert.
3-bedroom, which would make it.
Variances.
Yeah,
No waivers, so-
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this will be much
it's fully
easier from it.
compliant.
Yeah, so because no variances were required, if you went back and recharacterized it with a garbage grinder restriction, you would be a 6-bedroom house, which means you could go to 13 rooms, which takes away all the parts that are tricky for us in terms of thinking about.
And it would,
But I
Yeah.
had one other
right
question.
now, just so you know, I would be inclined to say no to the full bath downstairs because we now have a new regulation in town that allows accessory units more easily for people to have.
But if they had a
in their
6-bedroom
home.
system, that's a
Oh,
non-issue.
yeah, then it would be a non-issue, but it starts to become very complicated.
If I can
Yeah.
add two,
Because it-
there was one other reason I brought it to,
Yeah.
I'm glad all this is
Yeah.
working out for you.
Yeah.
But there's one other question, we had the same issue back, you might not, but we had a dog wash facility in town.
Yeah.
As a commercial property
Yeah.
over on.
But this is different, because this isn't a commercial dog grooming, this is dog care for a house with multiple dogs.
But I would still be concerned about the hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I
if
was
there's
gonna-
Yeah.
some kind of a process that would prevent the septic from getting clogged up.
Something
Like a
about the
pre-tank
Yeah.
maybe, because hair can be a problem in
Because
horsehair.
you
dog
Yeah, I remember that,
cannot.
Darryl, in the
Yeah.
last job. It is.
Yes,
How many
so-
dogs typically are in your care at peak?
Top
Yeah,
6.
okay. So,
I
yeah.
cannot handle more than that
Yeah.
because I
There's,
room, I train,
Yeah.
and I show, so
Yeah.
it's impossible.
so I think, so from a building permit standpoint, it sounds like this is doable by adding the garbage grinder restriction and having a re-engineered plan.
Well, I don't know if it really, it shows 660 on it.
So if we
But it
don't,
doesn't say no garbage grinder.
Right.
I think the restriction would just
And
solve
does
the
it
problem.
say four-bedroom? Wouldn't that
Yeah,
need to be
yeah.
updated?
so I think we want to update
It
it
does
to,
say existing, let's say it was an existing, and then
I would just say
It should say
for
existing.
20 years from now, you just want to make sure that the plans look great so that when you ultimately sell the house, you can say, it is a 6-bedroom system and you're not asking the 2040 board to say, no, they told us it was that. You can look at the YouTube video before. So the guidance is we think that it should be recharacterized as a 6-bedroom system that's consistent with,
Do you need it re-engineered, though? Wouldn't we need something from
I think
No, I think we
someone?
need.
Somebody with the
an
stamp.
engineer
Right.
right,
To update the plan to
Right.
reflect what's going on.
Right.
And we'd need a,
but we don't think that,
few
but it's sort
steps
of
to do.
verbiage on the plan that is changing, which, like, there's no calculation, it's just to say, here's the correct plan, this is a 6-bedroom system and you may not have a garbage grinder.
Right.
And there'd be the
And
deed
that
restriction for that.
isn't on
it would
there
be
now,
built into
so.
this land of trade.
Yeah.
or-
Sure, we can have Marco down do
Yeah, I
that.
was gonna say, they got the boiler plates, you just haven't had that.
And I'd also say, I guess,
Haven't called any questions.
since
Yes,
you
ma'am.
already reviewed these plans, I
Yeah,
assume there's
that-
not a lot of your review that would be
No,
needed.
it's just gonna be
because
this
it-
block that has to
Yeah,
change, and
okay.
label the house as a 6-bedroom, you know, there's,
Or up
whatever,
to.
it's existing.
Yeah.
So as long as it says 6-bedroom here, I know what it means. Some engineers don't put the bedroom count, which is, they did here, 4-bedroom, single family, now they can update that without a garbage grinder. 6-bedroom, single family without a garbage grinder.
No problem.
Would this be submitted as a revision to a previously approved plan? So that there's a formal,
That sounds like a good idea. Have we
There is a
done
fee.
that when it's?
there is a fee, it's
It's fine.
300 or $350, I mean.
Gary said it's fine.
You're taking out money for the custody, okay?
Talking about your money.
No, it's fine. You're not
It's
touching it.
fine.
He said it was fine, I didn't say anything.
For the record,
Yeah.
it would be
I think we want to be consistent,
appropriate to
yeah.
have a formal submittal.
I think so.
That's, I agree.
And so I think that right now, we're not opining on the details of the room counts. We're saying, by all definitions, even if you count the maximum as bedrooms, we would still be a 6-bedroom system and we're at a less than 13-bedroom count. So I think that that means that we don't need to formally opine on the kind of office and dog wash area or the basement exercise area.
Because this could be called a bedroom, but that's okay, that would be your
Oh, it would.
5th bedroom, and then the
What-
upstairs could be
Yeah.
the 6th bedroom, so you're.
Gary, they're gonna have to redesign anyways, I just thought of this.
Yes.
If, when they go, they're gonna show the plumbing to the septic tank, or to the house. 'Cause you got
To the
plumbing
barn.
in the barn.
Let's get you that.
So add that to it, add.
Okay, we
So what do you got? You totally have something. What do you got?
Yeah, I
Because
just want to get back to something. So if we get that gets turned into a 6-bedroom, the engineer does that.
Yeah.
You guys approve that, goes through the process. I think we do want to talk about the room count,
Yeah.
just to be.
I mean, I would say it's a
because-
I would say, to me, it looks like a 6-bedroom, because in terms of following the rules, you've got well, at least the 5-bedroom, because the basement, I would say, for us, you've got a full bathroom attached to a private area. We can say there's a hallway there, but this is on a different floor of the house. To me, that looks like a future au pair suite that I'd be uncomfortable not counting as a bedroom.
So that would be
But-
one.
So that would take us to 5, and then I think it becomes a question of, what does dog wash area look like, and how much do we adjudicate that? In that
But That's
case,
the
So
first
you have
floor,
an office, so
so
that's
it's the
another.
second floor, that's the.
And then upstairs is a finished area, Gary?
Yes.
Yeah, let's characterize these more carefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And you guys are going to characterize them what you think the future use is.
we're going to characterize it agnostic to your current use, so we're not necessarily saying,
We'd like to describe what we have.
You can-
You can guesstimate what someone might do, or, because you know your rules.
yeah,
What we have is this room, the upstairs room, as drawn as the half bath.
I just want to make sure, because I lost track in the first part of the conversation. Existing construction, we're saying is 7.
Okay.
Basement, we're saying is 8. And
And a bedroom.
Right, and then, so, okay, and now we're talking barn. So we've got office on the first floor, barn.
Yep.
And dog wash, so that's 2 rooms anyway.
But I think, I would say if we don't count bathrooms, then I don't know that we count dog wash.
Oh, okay.
It's not a big room. How big is the dog wash?
12 by 12.
Oh, it's a big room. I didn't know it was that.
It's got a barn, a barn door on it, a Dutch door they call it.
Yeah.
I guess that could be changed in the future, but that's what it has
I never
now.
thought of it. It's that big.
But I would also say, like, I don't see how we pick this room as a dog wash room and this room as a bathroom, like,
May I?
yeah.
Just because the only thing existing there is dog tub.
No, calling it a bathroom makes it easier from a room count standpoint, because we don't count bathrooms in the room count. So if we count as this is a separate kind of room, then we have to think about all of its patterns of use. My piece is if we're using this as a dog bathroom, they're just not potty trained, then this becomes the sort of, this is a grooming area, this is the equivalent.
It is,
Right.
yeah.
So is this like, more like a barn and
It
this
is
is?
a barn.
Oh, it is a
Yeah.
barn, so,
We just converted, it's all barn. The barn we
Okay.
built 3 years ago.
okay, so it doesn't look anything like finished
Not
spaces.
even close, not even
So,
close.
okay, so this
Yeah.
would be the one room then? You're saying
Correct,
this?
because this
Yeah.
is the only one that,
Okay.
yes.
Okay,
correct.
so if
Yeah.
someone had to go for a building permit and finish this
Yeah,
off
yeah.
and put electrical, then it might become a room, but that isn't your concern. Okay, all right, I
Great point,
understand that
great
better
point.
now. I thought it was, you pull out, you pull out the cubicles.
And I feel like we could
Okay.
not count dog wash room from a room count standpoint. Do you agree?
Yeah,
Okay.
because of its unfinished nature.
Okay.
So, heated but
Yeah.
unfinished. And then,
And this is a stairwell, it's open to all.
Right.
So the dogs will be downstairs. When she walks upstairs, she probably wants to communicate, just know what's going on with the dogs. So we could close it in. It's not set up for that now, and it has open railing system.
so would that be like a loft space, but still a room, it's still a room.
It's heated there,
And is the whole structure heated?
The whole
Yes.
structure.
Okay.
just for the dogs. It's-
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little tricky, I mean, I was just looking at plans for a new house that's the way the bedroom was. It was open right to their downstairs, just in a more modern design, so it starts to get tricky in a way. We don't have to necessarily confront this.
Even if it was a room. though,
Right. So,
it's still
Oh, it's a
10.
room,
Yeah.
yeah, we have to count it as a room,
Yeah.
but,
So it's only 10 at this time.
yeah.
Go up to 13.
but so I think if we're saying it's a room, then it goes to that question, if it's a room above the second floor, but it's a room above the second floor in the non-primary
It's a
structure.
6th room, yeah.
But I think there's a
Six bedroom,
valid.
which you can do now, but if, right, you're worried
But
maybe
it
about
doesn't-
future
But-
flexibility if
But I
you
would also say
rather
like a
have
room
bedroom
above the
elsewhere.
second floor gets,
I have
like,
a
it's tricky.
question.
Yeah,
It's a barn.
Yeah.
Still a barn, the stalls are there,
yeah.
kennels are there, nobody can sleep there.
So I think for us, it's,
Dogs out, then
Well,
it
if I
becomes.
don't heat the barn, the animal control officer.
no, I don't think
No,
we have,
again,
I
we
think
have to look at
for us, what we.
Some other
right.
user of this physical.
Because if we have somebody else who
structure.
says, I've got this secondary structure that is an
Yeah.
adjunct building that I built, it's heated, it's air conditioned, it's climate controlled, and I've got this space upstairs, you didn't count it for them. The fact that dogs were downstairs doesn't change the regulations for the Board of Health. And so for us, there's a piece of trying to make sure that we're able to kind of thread the needle with being consistent with other properties. And so, that's a piece.
And especially with the new accessory unit makes all these,
Yeah.
this is what people
Right.
are salivating over to have.
But I think if you had
This
to.
kind of structure that they can turn into a small unit.
But for somebody to turn that into the unit, there's
Person.
no scenario that this would go from this to that without a building permit.
Correct.
Right, and I think
Right.
there is one thing in terms of whether we call it a bedroom at this point.
I feel,
This is looking, it's a barn, it's like a garage, there may be one room downstairs, but it's not, is this connected to the house at all?
no.
It's separate, so
Yeah.
it
So-
becomes like that room
yeah.
over a garage, right, that doesn't
I
have
was just
Right.
gonna bring that.
This was like the
a
craft room we did
connection
on,
to a full bath, and it
right.
doesn't have a
Or
connection to a
That's
full
like that- it's
bath
like-
or any other, right.
it was like the
So-
Bullard Street craft room.
Yeah, so I think this, if you really want us to pin it down, I could see that, given the current configuration, I think we could consider it just a second floor room that is not a bedroom.
And a very important part, it doesn't afford privacy, because it's open to the
Right.
law.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
So-
that definitely wouldn't fall in the housing codes, because it needs to afford privacy.
That's
So
what
what,
I said, too.
so what I would say is, as I look at this, it sounds like we're at 7 in primary house. Let's call it 1 or 2.
8 in primary.
7 in existing house,
Oh,
1 in the
oh,
basement, or are you
yeah.
saying 2 in the basement?
No, 1 in the basement.
So that's 8. Then we've got barn first floor 1, barn second floor 1. So that
Yeah.
looks like we're at a 10 room count
And 5 bedrooms.
and 5 bedroom. And we think that the system could be approved for being a 6-bedroom system.
Yep, so,
Should we mention what you may do in the future?
Yes, we have to, we have
Yeah.
to.
We have to.
You have to now. Right, but I think just so you know, because you could do part of it now and say this is the vision, and then 2 years later say like, shoot, that doesn't.
No,
Right.
yeah, the vision, because you know, the barn's gonna be a barn forever.
But you may have somebody who resides in the barn.
No, we're gonna do
Yeah.
an au pair,
Yeah,
just in front of it. So, we're gonna.
A one-car garage with a room
With a
above
room
it,
above.
separate off
Yeah.
the building.
So I think
No,
it's-
You know, special.
but I think,
permit area.
so I think you'd still have room for that in the bedroom count, right? Because we're saying it's a 5-bedroom system. If it was recharacterized as 6-bedroom, you're adding a bedroom.
yep.
And is it physically attached to the barn, or it's
No,
distinct?
not at all.
Yeah,
Separate unit.
and so it'd be like, yeah, I mean, I think that hits a 6, right?
Right.
Yeah,
If you had only one room on.
but if you
That's
add
all
2
one
rooms,
Yes,
then,
that's all
yeah,
one
yeah.
room,
Bedroom.
Yeah.
and that's gonna be a.
Or could, like a studio, with
That's
like,
gonna be called as it is,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a bed.
yeah.
Okay.
So that sounds.
I mean,
So I'd say we'd want to see.
Details to be
Right.
reviewed.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
that's down the road.
But I'd say if you sort of say, this is the vision, does that vision line up with what I know today? It lines up. I can't say, yes, I approve that without saying that in the
No.
specifics, but I'd say,
I think after we do what you guys need us to do for this, and we get permitted to do what's in front of us, then we'll probably
You may.
plan for the other, and then come before you
Yep.
guys again.
Go over again.
If you know you're heading that way, you know, it's unfortunate, you're gonna have to submit
Yeah.
another septic plan.
Yeah.
Right now, you have to submit a septic plan showing connections from the barn to the septic system. You may wanna combine the two right now.
I think we should.
Not ready.
Get it
You're
done
not
and then
ready,
you
you're not
have it,
ready.
you just bring it
No,
back.
no.
You're right.
Or you don't have to build it
Just
right
design
away,
it.
but if you can
Just
lay
design
it
it,
out.
show
Yes.
So it's all
That's a
And you don't have
good point.
another septic coming
Right
in.
there.
It's up to you though.
No, Mike, we'd like to do that if you could.
Yeah.
That way you have a, well, just like this, it shows.
It keeps suspending.
Just listen to her, that's all. She's the boss.
awesome. So it sounds like we're on track. So it sounds like in terms of approving, there's guidance from the board that will be reflected in the minutes. We'll wait for the final plans to approve. We need to, those final plans would be re-engineered to reflect the lines that will connect the barn, the secondary structure, as well as the recharacterization to 6-bedroom system and the garbage grinder deed restriction.
And I know they're biting a little bit at the bit, as they would say, but I know Gary wants to keep moving, so he submitted, this is 2 separate applications. So
Yeah.
the barn is separate from the house. At this point, if septic plan's updated to show it as a 6-bedroom,
Yeah,
I think the house plans could be
Right.
approved and the barn plans too at the same time. But the septic plan would have to come back to the board, we meet every other week.
Sure.
It's up to you if you can make the deadline next Thursday.
and it's easier because there's no variances, so there's no notifications, right?
Right.
Yeah.
As long as there's no variance.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can talk to him
Yeah,
about that.
and then show the barn, show the garage, show the piping.
So do we want to tentatively put on the agenda now?
Septic tank, actually.
Wait
Gotta
till it
wait
comes
till
in.
it gets,
It
yeah.
won't, but it's, you can't have a lot of angles, you'll need cleanouts. Have the engineer call, because to get to the septic tank, it's not too bad, it's right here. You can enter it different ways, but you might, with angles, need cleanouts. We can talk about that during the process of the engineering.
Sounds good. So I just want to be mindful of time because I think we've got the
Yes.
8 o'clock.
And,
Thanks so much, guys.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
And I have one other
And I'm gonna just
question.
give this to Ellen because we,
What kind of
no,
dogs?
we're good.
Yeah, it's just, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
what I do and what it's intended for.
Awesome.
So you
Sounds good.
can understand better.
Those are the ones
Absolutely,
that
that
are, how
sounds
tall are
perfect. Have a
those?
great night.
The little, yeah,
Very lively and fun loving dogs.
they're really pretty, I think.
They've got a good gig. These dogs. I was like, yeah, you do. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. These are lucky dogs.
They're all the-
Right. Yeah.
This year?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So dog spa is really what you want to call it.
It's yours. Okay, thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great night, guys.
Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you, that's good. I was thinking of an extra trench.
I'm guessing you're Karen.
I'm Karen,
Okay.
yes.
Welcome, Kim. Sorry to keep you waiting.
That's okay. I'm glad I got here.
It worked out perfect.
Whatever the settings are.
Let me just close it, see if it diminishes the draft. At some point.
Might be worth going in to the other room and seeing if something could be addressed. We're talking about the air conditioning, it's cold.
Freezing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really cold.
I know.
It's like
No, you can't adjust
curtain of
it.
cold air flow.
Yeah,
Look, see, you do if we just wind it up.
Sean controls it from his,
yeah.
phone now, though.
Yeah, he
Sean,
does.
what?
Oh,
He controls it. There's nothing over there that controls it.
Yeah, I don't think we can do anything.
doesn't start a fire. Okay, so,
Yeah.
You want to see what I see?
You can,
electric blanket.
the other room.
Well, we also don't have any heat in the building right now, because the
Yeah,
gas service is being in.
Yeah, the boiler.
Yeah, I don't know about
There's a library.
closing the door is not gonna change it, I don't think.
No, you know, keep it in here.
Yeah,
turn the air off, like,
right, I'm not sure, and do we really have the door shut?
I can override it over there, I'll just text them and tell them.
We have meetings, lots of meetings.
Text and Sean.
It's fallen down right from,
Yeah.
so, anyway.
So we should just be really quick.
All right, let's move on. Excuse us.
No problem.
All right, so we wanted to learn more about the Sharps kiosk, and when you speak, it'd be helpful to be over here, just so.
You'll be memorialized on YouTube. The usual view count is about 3, but it's still, the usual view count's about 3, so don't worry too much.
All right. Well, yeah, she told me, I came from a class, I taught a weightlifting class. I jumped in the car and drove here, and I'm like, I'm not gonna look too good. That's all right, it's all good. So yeah, I'm here for Chrysalis Environmental Services is my company. And we really just do the kiosks for, generally we do it for needle collection. Some of them are used for medications as well, not in the same kiosk, but. So I know Ellen, I gave her some information, and I said I could come to just answer any questions you might have.
So does your service, besides providing a unit, are we buying a unit or renting a unit?
You have a bunch, there's all sorts of options that you have, and we designed it this way because we knew each town had different rules that they had to abide by. So we have one program that you lease the kiosks from us. So you pay a big chunk of the money up front, and then we divide it up, and then you pay a certain amount over the throughout the months. Or you can purchase the kiosk outright and own it, and then do the maintenance and we insure it, we'll clean it, we'll make sure it's running okay. Once a year we come, change the batteries, make sure the electronics are working. And then, or you can just purchase the kiosks and just do the medical waste pickups with us, that's one price, without the insurance. I would highly recommend that it's insured. So you can combine things any way you want. We have a basic model and electronic model, and depending where you're going to put the kiosk, if it's monitored, if there's somebody nearby that can check it, then a basic model is fine. If you're going to put it in a foyer or a hallway where it may not be attended all the time, then you really do want electronic, because you want it to close down when it's full, and you want it to lock down because you want to prevent a spill.
Okay, so even if it was in a secured building, right now where we're collecting pharmaceuticals, unused pharmaceuticals,
Okay.
is in the police station, and it's a similar sized unit. It's in the hall, but it's right by the desk for the officers when you walk in. So it's under their watch, if we can fit the other one in there, set up.
But
But I wouldn't want it to be their responsibility
Responsibility to
have
watch
to
it,
figure
right.
out whether it's full or not, because,
Right.
you know, that's just not
So it seems
job
like we-
description necessarily, so that's good to know. So that's something that a more elaborate model And it sense that,
It senses
stop
what,
accepting sharps so that they're
Because
not.
they're paying for technology, not for man hours, which is
Yes.
probably less expensive.
And also, the other thing that struck me too is talking about cleaning. I would assume you have specially trained bloodborne pathogen safety procedures and that sort of thing, and that again may not be something that we have staff who
right,
can or should do that.
right.
For emptying and if something malfunctioned.
Right, there are sites that they will change their own boxes, they don't ever touch their waste, but if that's not something you want to do, then you don't have to do it. Each town works a little bit differently, regarding that.
I think
mean,
who would own that gets tricky enough that I think not having
Yeah.
anybody in town responsible for owning it may be
Right.
easier to navigate.
Yeah, I would think so. So, okay,
So,
all right.
so the way the electronic model works is, they look the exact same, and even if you purchase the basic model and you later decided you wanted the electronic, we can just come to your kiosk and upgrade it. You don't have to get a new kiosk, we can just come and do that. When it's half full, a light will start to flash, flashes yellow to say that there's about halfway through the box. And that just lets you know, because you're going to typically know when your next pickup, about when your next pickup is going to be. So if you think, oh, we might be full before that, you can give us a call, we can set up an earlier pickup. And then when it does turn full, which is a little bit below the top of the box line, the kiosk will lock down and the roll bucket door will not unlock. It will lock, so you can't open it and put more in. And then when the Stericycle is the company that we use right now, as does everybody else, but when they come in and take the waste away, the kiosk resets itself.
And is when they do the pickup driven by how full it is?
Well, what we usually do on a new site, in a town like Sherborn, is
4,500 people.
yeah, so it's not huge. So what we would do, and we don't want you to waste your money, so what we usually do is we set up the kiosk, we find out if you're going to do any PR, because if you're going to do any PR, we know that you will get hit with a bunch of people coming at once. So if you do that, we usually set up a pickup for a week later and make sure that you're, or at least be in contact with you to see how full you are. So if you want to, you can be on an on-call basis at first. So maybe when that light turns yellow, you can call and say, it looks like we're filling up, we might need a pickup. And then we can set it up. So you can kind of gauge where you use your pickups. If you do the leasing program and you say, okay, you decide you're going to do 1 pickup a month or 2 pickups a month, whatever you might think you need, we'll hold some of those pickups for you till later on in the year if you want them. We won't say, okay, you didn't have the waste for that month, we're going to charge you 2 months anyway. We don't do that. We will let you extend those to when you need them. So you can stay on call until you get busy enough, and you'll know after a little while, Medfield, I think, started off, I'm trying to remember if they were once a month pickup. They're still at once a month, and their waste is definitely picking up because they are getting waste from the other towns. The surrounding towns are using their kiosks. But
Is there, part of me wonders if we could end up going a year, I don't know how much is held in this, I just don't
A
know
year
what
without
kind of
pickup?
volume we might have, but is there a rule of thumb on what's the maximum amount of time between pickups?
I've never had anybody ask go a year. I think the longest.
We're super cheap.
Well, and I used to manage this for, not touching it myself, but oversee the program for a company, and when the law changed and it, packages for homeowner,
Right.
residents, whatever, residential use was
Right.
more available, the amount really dropped off at the corporate campus. And so we really didn't need pickups at that point. So I just don't know, since that is available to people now, are they going to switch? They might switch to using this, or they might continue with whatever they've established already. So that's why I say, I think it could actually be a question for us of how long
I'd have
we
to
want
check,
leave.
I have to check whether that
Those jars
has
sitting there.
changed. It used to be, I want to say 120 days, but that may have changed because once this residential started, like you said, some of the rules changed a little bit. I haven't gone that long for any of our sites. They have needed pickups.
Yeah. And if we say that we can go a year without a pickup, then I would say we don't need a kiosk.
Yeah.
I would be shocked.
Yeah.
If you didn't do any advertising and didn't, publicize it.
If we put it in the
then
police
maybe.
station and don't tell anybody, we could probably go a year.
Well, and
If
if
our
it-
intent is to say we want, I think that we'd want Sherborn residents to know the service was available, and also to
Exactly.
make sure that
Right.
since we're not paying for Medfields, we would encourage them to use ours, and I suspect
Exactly.
Medfield would also prefer.
Right.
Medfield isn't taking ours, so.
Right, they were having some issues with not just Sherborn, with other
yeah.
towns.
Yeah, it's an
Well, because if
expense,
there's
so
no
it
solution
shouldn't be
that's
going to
easily
them.
available to people, they're like, I'm trying to do the right thing.
I know, it's so hard, because
Yeah.
everybody does want to do the right thing, and they know that these needles should not go in the trash. So, it's,
So I think this is us saying we want to be part of making the right thing easier.
Right.
And I think we would want to publicize and communicate and educate about it.
Yes.
But I think we'd also say, like, my 2 cents would be thinking about leasing strategies rather than buying strategies, because I think the patterns of use, having not done it, are kind of a wild card, and it would be nice to be able to reassess after a period of time to say, do we have a need that's being met with this tool versus other strategies in terms of the competing cost for the town? So
I have to say, I haven't had many towns
I don't think when
not get a lot of, eventually they get quite a bit of waste. We have towns that we are
just with
picking
the,
up.
like, type 2 diabetes prevalence and like the boomers aging and everything else, like there will be more sharps.
And the people, for their pets,
Yeah.
they use a lot of syringes as well. But, we've had very few sites close. We've had sites like literally close because the whole site closed, but not say, no, we're not collecting waste,
Yeah.
we don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened. I know that like one advantage about doing the lease is that we are monitoring it all the time. If something malfunctions in your kiosk, or I don't know, anything that could happen. We did have one that was left too near a door. They weren't wiping it down. We've asked them to move it, but started to rust a little. Well, we replaced that. When you buy it,
It's
obviously it's yours.
Yeah.
But then it does have its advantages. Obviously, over the years,
Right.
you're going to be saving money if you buy it. So, that's
Yeah, well, and we
what
could
fun.
talk that over with advisory too,
Yeah.
to see what they have to say.
Yeah. My
About
pers-
whatever the
It's a
relative
problem that
costs are.
crosses departments too.
yeah.
So,
It's a town.
I think the other thing that's appealing about the leasing too is you'll have experienced eyes looking at it, so if there's something peculiar going on with what's being deposited in there, and that kind of thing, just so we'd know, is there re-education needed for those folks who are using it or something, so.
Yeah.
We do find that it works much better if you do some kind of PR attached to it, letting people know, number one, what kind of sharps containers you're going to allow. And obviously, there's what the state allows and what you allow. We have some towns that say you can only use a sharps container. Obviously, you can use other things like a puncture-resistant non-see-through bottle. You want to make sure that they don't use soda bottles or a clear bottle where that needle can poke through. Obviously, to keep the people safe, who are picking up the waste. But also let them know that it's for their pets as well. Because some people don't think that they can dispose of their pets' needles as well.
So the point is, they have to have the sharps in another container, because I've
Yes.
also
Right.
seen some
Absolutely.
collections where, as long as you have the cap on the sharp, that it could just go in, and then you have a loose collection
Right.
of.
Absolutely no single needles. It does happen, sometimes the sharps container's not closed all the way and a needle comes out, but right now Stericycle uses a plastic tub, which that gives them that extra safety net, but there are times where they might start with a tub and they might replace it with a cardboard box. obviously a single needle dropped into a cardboard box, that driver's taking it out, that's a safety issue.
Yeah.
So again, that's something that you do want to post. We have labels on the kiosks,
To kind of
on the
figure
front
that
and
out,
inside
yeah.
that say, no single needles.
So in terms of our next steps, is it to kind of say, this is the cost that would be associated with lease of electronic version, discuss with advisory, proceed accordingly?
Yeah, I think so.
And find out where it can go.
Ex-advisory,
That's like the most-
advisor? Does that sound like a reasonable course?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Be interested to see the volume in town is too.
right,
Yeah, we need a period of time to do that.
so.
I think that's like the beauty of the lease, is to be able to say, we can kind of define this as the use pattern.
Yeah.
To kind of say, because I think that whatever we see in their first year likely systematically underestimates the need, because there will be the people who don't know yet, who have other strategies, who say, oh, great, I don't have to go to Medfield anymore, or Hopkinton, or wherever
Yeah.
else they're going to do this. And so,
Or to the post office.
yeah.
Yeah, the post office is tough. Paying for, they have to pay for that. Most people don't like that. The other thing too is if it's a funding issue, we have had towns that have applied for grants for funding, or even a local company, like the town will purchase the kiosk, and then sometimes a local company may offer to fund it monthly to pay for the waste disposal. I can't remember what kind of companies that they
Yeah.
were using, but they did tell me that they have tried that.
Yeah, I'm not sure we have that.
I'd say we have a small company
Commercial
footprint.
sector.
But so, okay, so it sounds like
I
we've
mean,
got
but it is a
reasonable
matter
next
of the whole town underwriting the cost.
But like
You know,
I-
as long as the town's okay with that.
But like, what, totally agree, but like, there are pieces where it's like, oh, this is squishy, like, this is a piece where right now we're taking advantage of other towns who do pay for it, and that feels intrinsically
Oh, yeah,
unreasonable.
no, I don't think that
That,
should
like, I
happen,
think,
but-
like, we've gotta do this. We just have to figure out like how to do that in a way.
I mean, I
that
do think
works.
that the mailer option is there and it's available, but obviously people are going to the other towns.
Right.
Who are then contacting us and saying, people are coming to us.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but there is another, but it's
I wonder
a,
if you need a policy.
I think it
like-
is a good thing for protecting our transfer station
Yeah.
workers. So I'm more driven by that than providing the services. I think buying the mailers and being at your home and, you know, packaging it up and sending it
Right.
off is not so bad. But
But the
if
problem
it's
is,
not managed right, that's
the
where I
risk of-
think it's,
yeah.
and being co-located, if we can achieve that with the used medications, it's, you know, kind of educational all around, it's together, both make sense, and both say, you shouldn't be putting these somewhere else. So that's,
Well,
I
we're giving
think,
a
a good
place where
message.
things that not put away properly are dangerous.
Yes, yes.
Maybe we need a policy later on if anyone ever builds a medical facility in town, that you wouldn't want them necessarily not installed
Yeah,
a
they would
shelf
be- right.
repository,
Right,
so
Right.
they didn't have to.
yes.
Yeah.
We had to, you know, because there hasn't been talk
But so,
about.
so I think the intent would be for residential use.
Yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to
And
commer-
residents of Sherborn, so that, I don't know that we're gonna have a way to monitor that at the police station.
What I would say is I think,
Any
I
of our
don't-
buildings, we can't really designate somebody to stand over.
well, and also
so-
like, you know, again, if we get to the place that just too many sharp people, like, what I wanna go is to drive to Sherburne, go into the police station to do this. Like, I think there's a natural filter there
Yeah.
that my worry about that's less. Perfect,
I hope so.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else you think we should know, that you know?
it doesn't seem like you have any issues in the town with like loose needles, you're finding loose needles anywhere at the playgrounds or anything, which
Thankfully
is
not
an
yet.
issue in
Yet.
so many towns.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, so that's good. You know, we do have a little program, like we do have some artwork if you did want to put anything in your school system to educate children about, you know, what to
Yeah.
do if you find a needle. We have two little characters, Ziggly and Zed. One represents medication, one is the needles. Just another add-on that can happen if
Yeah,
it
that
does
might
become
be
a
nice.
problem.
Yeah.
We, you know, and I think it was Andover recently, 2 little girls found a needle and decided to give each other flu shots. You know, and everybody was like, you know, what do we tell our kids? You know, it's
Yeah.
a scary thing that can happen, but.
That information, you know, we could just turn over to the school nurse and
Yeah,
let them work out
Right.
the education, yeah.
whether to deliver all of it, some of it, how.
So it sounds like we're good to go, just in the interest of time.
Yeah. So,
The kiosk does come without any artwork on it. The state of Massachusetts has their own, it's through the HIV/AIDS, and they've offered that it can go on any kiosk in the state of Mass if you want to use it. We do, if you want it, we can take artwork we have and redesign it to fit your needs. There is a charge for that, if that's something you want to do, if there's something specifically you want on the kiosk, but again, that's up to you, and we can talk about that at a later time, but really it's deciding, you know, do you want basic or electronic, and do you want to own or lease? And other combination. And, you know, obviously if you decide to lease and then you decide you want to buy, you can certainly switch over.
Awesome.
that's great, thank you
Thank you
very
so much for your time tonight.
Did you have the pricing sheets? Do you want any of those, or
I think
brochure?
we've got those.
Yeah, was that this?
That one, yep.
I had that.
Here's just a brochure. We decided not to go ahead and print multiple brochures because we're trying to save on paper, so that's just a quick one in case
wanna look at it?
you want it. I also have some of my business cards if you need those as well. All right. And you can call me anytime if you have any questions. Is that?
Great, thank you.
All right.
Have a great day.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, and you are for which?
Waiting patiently. He's with 33 Ash, 36. And what it is, Ellen, were those building plans here, or are
It's
they-
a preliminary building application.
You don't have it right there, do you?
Oh, crap, that's over here.
The board's seen this one already once, and we met on June 11th, and they wish to take a large house that has a septic system that was put in 3 years ago, and convert it over. The board had questions. Do you have the plan on it all?
It's in the
In the blue book?
blue book,
So,
yeah.
if you give me, while you look at that, you can give me a minute to go get
Okay.
those.
I'm looking at this. Did we have?
I don't think we got it in our packet.
No, there's nothing in the,
Did you look at that as a refresher?
Awesome.
Okay, so are you the owner or contractor?
Contractor.
think we have to be
Yeah.
since Rebecca's not here.
Everything ready.
Seventy-one degrees in there.
If it wasn't breezy, it'd be really.
Yeah. Feels freezing in here.
So have the plans changed from whatever we saw the last time?
They can explain that.
Okay. Let me return this to you before I
You want to change March's clarification.
Exactly. Where's the other part?
There.
I
Is
just
that
need
it?
my notes.
Yes.
No, is that it? Oh, perfect. Sorry, Mark, I'm going rogue here. So,
Nate, you can come up here if you want.
Come on, yeah.
so we had existing 5-bedroom system in the original house that's Gonzo now.
Well,
Soon as
Soon to be Gonzo.
Yeah.
so they put in the septic, replacement septic system in for the house, and at the same time, a new owner bought it. And unfortunately, the septic system didn't get much use because the person passed.
Never got used.
Yeah.
So he lives in that.
Probably empty.
He built an addition to age in place, so that's why they upgraded the system to have a whole new suite, and he lived there, he stayed there one night. Back
Are
in the
you
house.
kidding?
Oh, no.
Later.
Oh,
So
that's
just
so
a quick
sad.
summary.
So
it is
it's
very
basically never
unfortunate.
been, the system basically
It's
was
like a new system.
a single man and never got used after that, and then that's how
Oh,
sold.
that's a shame.
So,
But the new owners applied for soil testing, the problem was it didn't meet the 5 feet to groundwater, it was off a little bit, but when you look at the septic system right next to where they tested, it's raised, so it kind of already was known that groundwater could be an issue here. Very close, though. So the Board of Health reviewed it back on June 11th, and the first floor was determined to be 5 rooms and a total of 8 rooms. Second floor, the future bonus room was questioned right here. And that room was discussed, and these are the other plans. I don't know where I put the plans you and I reviewed just yesterday, but you can go ahead and explain if you told me.
So I did-
Well, it's unfinished storage, it was never intended to be, oh, yeah, that's it, so this is a different plan you have, yeah, so.
Yeah, the labeling you put on yesterday.
Yeah, the other one didn't have that labeling, yeah, so this is unfinished storage.
Okay.
Why don't you hold off, and we'll have it in a minute, and then
Okay.
you can submit the
Perfect.
plans.
that's fine.
But so the reason it's
So can we
being
do,
discussed. go
I
ahead.
just want to start at scratch, just because I remember questions, but I don't remember enough. Can we just start at
Yep.
scratch from the room count?
So, yeah, well, let's go through the whole house. then
Perfect.
First, and instead of jumping right upstairs.
Yeah.
Let's do the entire room count again. And it would be important because it's sprawled out house, basically. So, basically, this is the proposed home, and this is the existing home with the barn. And it's sprawled out.
6.5 acres.
And where's that proposed garage going in respect to this plan?
The barn?
The barn, is
The
that
barn
it?
is here.
That is it,
So that's
okay.
existing barn that's retained from the structure.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they're gonna do some things in there as well. So the basement, and correct me if I'm wrong, because we just reviewed this, is basically not finished, correct?
Correct.
And so it's remaining that way, correct?
Right. So-
Well, I mean,
Slab
nothing's
here,
remaining,
Remaining unfinished.
but there's nothing there. This is the new basement.
The
So
new
this-
basement
this
will
is-
remain unfinished, that's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, this is all new construction, it's a demolition.
With the exception of the barn.
Yeah.
Right,
And we'll
because
have-
it's complete, it's totally in a
Different part of the
location
property.
of the property.
Okay.
And ultimately, at the end of this.
And what's happening with the barn?
We'll
let's get to
that,
it.
yeah. It's very complicated because we have to talk
Yeah.
about demolition reconstruction as well. And so this is the first floor, and this is where, I'm reading upside down again, but this is where we counted 8 rooms.
I just want to go
and
through
5
to,
bedrooms.
Yeah, I'll do what you guys have said. So we got master bedroom, and then we got 4 bedrooms here, so that's the 5 bedrooms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms. Okay,
This is,
and we have the living room there, that's 5, that's 6, so that's 6 rooms. Family room, kitchen, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's where the
We got a
board
bedroom
got the-
entry, which none of these are
Yeah.
gonna count.
And
This is all
so-
part of the master suite.
pretty much not changing, as you said, nothing's changing, it's just clarification.
so it sounds like we all agree 8 rooms on the first floor?
Yes.
Okay.
Now we'll get to the second floor.
With 5 of those designated as bedrooms.
Correct, yeah. And then we're gonna need to get to the barn after the house.
Well, there's the pool and the pool house.
And the pool house, yeah. True, you got a campus out here. And then the next floor is the second floor, and on the
Which is
second
above the
floor.
garage, which is just this space above the garage. This is the only area that is access there, and that's their storage space.
And that's the unfinished?
Unfinished.
Okay.
So, talking with Nate and the building commissioner yesterday, the building commissioner was curious if maybe the board, if concerned about that, would require a deed recording restricting it.
Yes, yeah.
And that would help solve any questions of future use. You heard earlier discussions. But right now, no rooms on the second floor.
And can you just
Except
walk
for
me
that.
through how this connects? Like, how do you access this? What's
This
the
is
room?
the stairway here coming in through the, from the foyer. So.
Okay.
So you come in through the mudroom here, and then there's this, and then there's a stairway back.
Up from,
So it's
so
from the heated
mud,
space.
so
Mudroom.
from mudroom to storage space?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and then, the basement.
And so we'd say that we think we'd want a deed restrictions, but kind of its other, but that seems like could be sufficient. So that, are we calling that a room? I don't think so, because it's
No,
unfinished.
It's unfinished.
Okay.
And,
Maybe a restriction to keep it that way unless they come back.
yeah,
Yep.
it's gotta look very unfinished. I mean, which gets a little tricky when you wanna insulate them for energy code
You can
stuff.
insulate it and paint it. So.
But you can understand the reason for the
Of course.
deed restriction. You've been through these before, so,
Yeah.
and then, did we get, the basement was on the first page.
But I think the basement, we've said no rooms, no finished.
You already, good.
So right now my count's up to 8.
Yep. And now we gotta get to the pool house. And in there, you have a full half
Half
bath,
bath. And
a
then
closet, and a room.
Okay,
this is a utility.
Utility,
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
for the utility.
and heated?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So I think we'd say
down-
we'll count it as a room, but it's not a full bath, which I think is critical.
Right. And.
So we're now
Room
up,
number 9.
so I'm up to 9.
Yep.
And then, we move to the barn. And the barn was in question about that second floor, the board, any questions on that?
Further back.
More. You know these by heart, so.
Some of the versions kicking around, but it's on the set. No, you don't have the right set here.
That's the set we had, so, where's that other set go? I was reviewing it
I didn't
yesterday.
You didn't
Have
take
it.
it, Ellen?
No,
No,
Alan
I
didn't
did
take it.
not
I was
take it.
reviewing it. Oh, I put it back in his original file, I think,
Well,
Which
I'm
one?
not sure that's,
the septic file and all that. so-
Well,
But anyways.
the barn is real easy. The barn is,
yeah, lost really.
the barn is a garage, and then a, what's gonna be like the game room on one floor, with a half bath. And then above it, this is open, so this is vaulted, this is 2 stories, and then here,
Which part's vaulted?
this part over the game,
Okay.
over the game room, so that whole, that goes 2 stories, and then above it on the second floor is the office, which is.
Here it is.
Just an office, no bathroom up
That's it,
there
no.
too.
That's right, just a half, and so we have a half bath on the third floor.
So,
Hey, I can improvise, man, I'm ready.
All right. So in that case, I get us up to 11, which would be fine
Yes.
because we're at 5.
Right.
And that seems consistent. The key piece there is just that the office is disconnected from the rest of the house and there's no full bathroom in the structure in question.
There's the ones that the board had questioned.
Yeah, so
Yes.
that's the office, and that's the open boat.
So it seems like it hits the 11 room count.
yeah,
5
11,
bedrooms.
and it's going to, yeah, our records will show that the basement and
But I think like,
no addition rooms, no finishing of
Yeah.
unfinished spaces, because that would require
Yeah.
another septic.
So, a couple things come up with
Expansion.
this. So the room count seems to fit a 5-bedroom. If it was being
It's not-
changed within the existing house, once we get to demolition reconstruction, we have a case example down at 3 Oakfield, where what the board did is required a hearing. And the appendix A says when you have demolition reconstruction, I think it's section 7, you have to.
If it's more than 2 years?
Three.
More than 3 years.
Well, 3 years if you have the system pumped by the 30 years. when you have a new certificate of compliance. On this property, it would be outdated.
But it's barely missing it by like months, by like a
Well,
couple
and
months,
as
because,
this conversation started too,
yeah.
is hardly any use of the system.
Because they did a Title V, which they had the system pumped, less than a year ago, or a year
Okay,
ago.
you still have that in?
Yeah, they did, so they did a Title V that passed, so.
There was also stuff in there, I thought that
Yeah,
supported.
So my request would be just to not have to, if you guys could just make a ruling that that system is gonna be okay without having it to go push it to another hearing to delay the project.
But then we're
I think it gets tricky just because if an abutter said, why didn't you follow the rule? And we're like, to make it go faster?
Well, because of the precedent, the fact that you have the 3 Oldfield case, which was an approved system, which the system was 10 years old, and this one is literally brand new,
Yeah.
that there would be no.
So from your standpoint, this would be consistent with prior decisions of the board or inconsistent?
inconsistent because you only have one case, and that's 3 Oakwood.
And what we do in?
But at the same time, there's an
Required.
opportunity for Nate to get started on the rest of the project. Then not the house, the barn and the garage.
Right.
So
We'd still like to be able to move forward with the general building application, so, because the bigger thought is saying it would be that there's no path forward that we see that the board would ever be recommending that we tear up this brand new system and build a new system, even.
And I wouldn't recommend that.
Even with the hearing anyway,
right.
so that
Unless
would just,
something-
it would just be crazy to even suggest that we're gonna push this forward and anyone make that argument that says that we're gonna replace a perfectly good system for another perfectly good system.
But I think what gets tricky to me if you say I didn't follow like lots of
Yeah,
rules.
but no one's gonna argue with that, so I mean.
You have not done stuff in Sherborn, people argue.
Yes, I have.
But I would say like, I have had people argue about things that are,
Well,
from my standpoint.
if we have the recommendation of.
My recommendation,
of Mark,
though, as I told you yesterday, though, is to go forward with the process. If you waive the process, it's always been told it's a slippery slope. You did say you had activity you could continue with, you'll have to break your building permit up.
Right.
But at least you can stay busy while you go forward, and I think even Ellen and I were giving you dates yesterday of the next meeting. It couldn't be the next meeting, but
No, it
possibly the
couldn't be,
meeting after.
yeah.
So
But you'd have to
it just
do
creates a slippery
notification.
slope, and being here,
What I would say is
Too
for
long
me
to
to be
not
the person to adjudicate what makes sense while not following the rules, puts it in a position where every single person would say, here's why you shouldn't follow the rule for me, and that,
why'd you do it with them?
and that just gets really tricky.
What I would
I'd
suggest
give
is-
you my sense right now, pre-hearing, so it's not binding, it's
Yeah.
not the whole board and all the rest, but, right, I agree that I can't see having it ripped out and would certainly advocate for being able to use it.
Do we have a date on the exact system?
Well, you have to apply to.
No, your question
Well,
is
you're
going to
asking
say,
about the
like,
actual septic
right.
system. I can go get that file.
Let's get that file just to answer the question.
Just so you know the date of that too. If it was 2 years, that'd be nice, huh?
Well, I'm saying if the system was pumped,
Behind you, mate.
the system was pumped recently for the title, they have to pump it for the title V, right?
They don't always.
They don't always.
Yeah, especially if it hadn't been
If it
used.
hadn't been used, they definitely wouldn't have.
Down.
And so I think kind of going to the packet that you sent, Ellen, which was, this was raised 2 meetings ago with the Title V issues that don't go away presentation that was sort of referenced. And so this is, I think, was this Claire's presentation? Yeah,
Yes.
Claire Golden's. This seems like it falls, the new construction definition shall not include replacement or repair of a building in existence as of March 31st, 95 has been totally or partially destroyed or demolished, provided there's no increase in design flow, which this would say 5-bedroom to 5-bedroom, so no increase there. No increase in the number of dwellings or dwelling units, and no increase in the number of bedrooms in any dwelling or dwelling unit.
So it'll be interesting what we do with that accessory unit, so I consider, I'm going off topic a little bit.
Just while we wait
This is
for
an
Mark.
example. Right, the barn, which is a separate unit, gets turned into an accessory unit. Is that gonna fly in the face of number of dwellings? Per caveat of,
What I would do, I mean, I think this is this is
Yeah.
a presentation as opposed to
Yeah.
binding guidance
Yeah,
from the state,
That's,
No,
the,
no,
the,
no.
the letter is more binding than that,
the 2001.
yeah. But that's,
that's something we'll have to think about and that would be.
And so in terms of our meeting cadence, while we wait for Mark, we've got the meeting on, what is it, October 4th? I think that's the next one. October 2nd.
Second, and 16th, and then it would be November
6th.
13th.
Oh, 13th. So the 6th is the one we're canceling, and the 13th is the one we're replacing.
Yeah.
We date the certificates based on the construction date. So it was constructed, and I know you said it wasn't used that much, September 17th, 2013. So that's when it was
So it's
constructed.
6 years. Almost to the day.
Unfortunately, this system's gonna have to be finalized. They never finalized the final house inspection. I think it's probably past it.
What's the normal number of years?
3.
3, okay, so we're.
But we have, I was telling Nate about 3 Oldfield. I said, I couldn't recommend putting another system in, seeing that that system's only 3 years old,
Right.
4, 6
Yeah.
years now. But at the same time, I explained the process, and I would recommend, at the time of that hearing, unless we find out, I just have to find a Title V inspection. If not, we get it
So,
back.
yeah, so if it's 13, I was, for some reason, someone had told me it was 3 years old, so that's fine, so we'll go forward with that process.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
In the interim, can we have permission to continue? We have an existing open building permit for work that's already started on the barn. We want to transition into a full building permit for that. Can we at least have get a board approval on that tonight too?
It seems reasonable.
Well, yeah, what I would suggest, Nate, is just bring in that part, do
Okay.
it part by part.
No, we will, I just want to make sure.
But I think your piece is, do you need anything from us today to do that? Because
Well,
it
Yeah,
would kill you to say,
Chris-
on Monday,
Chris is
doesn't,
gonna- Yeah, Chris is going to say, what did the Board of Health say on that
So-
piece of it?
Conditional to the final grade as-built getting to us. Paul never submitted
Yes.
the.
Yeah.
This is what happens, we do a checklist, and unfortunately, in this case, the person wasn't there. So the only thing we have pending is the installer's note, we got that, the final grading as-built from the engineer.
Okay.
Mature growth of vegetation, I was out there, I saw the other system when I was out there, soil testing with you guys. The full house inspection won't be needed because it's coming down. So, just that, conditional to Paul getting us, he might
So
already.
I
Okay,
think,
and
so I think
so-
your question really is though, is there anything else I need from you guys tonight to proceed with the barn while we go downstream for the hearing?
Correct.
Yeah. The
And-
final grade as-built.
Answer is the as-built, or
And-
the final grading.
Yeah. the
And
plan
are they
being
on
the same.
separate
Sorry.
permits anyway? So
It
you
will-
are
will
able
be.
to
That was a-
approve the
yeah.
barn
Separate. They
separately
will be two
without
separate
a lot
It
of.
will have to be in this case.
Okay.
And then, septic-wise, how are you getting from the barn to the septic system?
That's going to go from the barn to the pump chamber.
You need a septic plan for that.
Yes, there will be
Do you
yeah,
want to
part-
allow him to start without that septic plan?
Would it be at his own risk, because
Yeah, just
slope
don't-
and all that kind of
yeah.
stuff?
Yeah, we're not gonna do anything outside of the house until we have.
Oh, and the barn exists?
Yeah, barn
Okay.
exists,
But
yeah.
there's no,
Then that makes
you're not,
sense.
are you doing plumbing in the barn?
I think, it
So
sounds
what
like
we'll
barn will
need
have
is a
half
septic plan, a revised septic plan. So
Yes.
what I would have Paul
Septic
do for you
alteration.
is maybe ask him to start the septic plan part for the barn and garage to show how it's gonna happen, and then get that to us, and that can be your final grade as-built too. It could
Well,
be
the
one
whole-
plan in both.
Well, see, it's a little unique in the sense that we have this separate piece, but then it's going to merge with the larger piece, because there's gonna be a whole site plan, there's gonna be a whole grade plan, there's gonna be a whole thing that's gonna.
So my sense is your goal is to say, I would like to keep my scope to whatever is required tonight, but going ahead won't make my task simpler because there's a lot of complexity that will come.
Right, and I'm not asking to do anything
Outside of the
from
work on the
outside
barn,
to
yeah.
connect to it at this
Okay.
point. I'm not asking for any, I just want to be able to,
Proceed with the barn,
get the barn,
progress
yeah,
out.
be able to do
Okay.
framing and plumbing, electrical permits and all that stuff, so.
No, I don't, you
And no-
don't touch it.
and
He's
obviously,
gonna be in
you know,
charge of the Sharps kiosk in like 10 minutes.
Knowing that if something happens, I can't do it and sit my own risk. I'm willing to take that.
Okay. So,
But, just so the board knows,
Yeah.
there's the original house, so what'll happen is they'll have to submit, I just was looking for this plan. Nate, did you come up?
Yeah.
Does it matter, Nate?
Nate.
You go by Nate, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
anyway.
So, here's that house there, pretty much coming out like that. So, when they decide on the house, they're gonna have to have a whole new plan, not, the field
I think
stays the
that's the
same.
point you just made.
But, and I know you were, are you keeping the tank there, or are you gonna move that too?
No.
You're gonna move everything?
No, we won't move the tank.
You'll keep it there?
Yeah.
Okay, because the house is gonna be, I got your tanks right there, right here, the house. So we'll need the drawing from
Yeah.
Paul,
Yeah.
whoever your
Yes.
engineer is, to show the building pipes from the buildings
Yes.
to the septic tank and the road
Correct.
there.
Yeah.
You know,
All that, everything, yeah.
And then and in terms of the final guidance for the bonus, not the heated unfinished storage room,
And the basement.
That could be on the
That
second
they
part.
both are-
that'll be, so we don't need to do that now,
Because
perfect.
that'll be
Okay.
part of the building permit package for the main house, so
Okay.
that is a totally different.
In terms of order of things,
He's gonna need a
permit,
waiver, just so you know.
then the
that
septic
Barnes
plan,
can-
septic
I
plan
would say if he needs to
updated,
get
then
started,
the
I can
application.
respect that, so I don't talk over
Yeah,
you. But
that's,
I think if he wants to get started with the barn,
Yes.
I can sign off conditional to no plumbing flushing until we get the septic plan, so that would be.
okay.
Well,
Second.
can we say outside the building, because I'm ready for plumbing inside the building, I'm ready.
Okay, to cap it maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
we can
fine.
say
Okay.
cap it.
It's fine.
You don't want people using.
No, we
Yeah.
don't, absolutely, we're
Is
not.
the water already connected to it? Oh, then maybe just say no water connection until we get the.
That's
septic
fine, as
plan.
long as I can put my
You can
pipes.
put your pipes in, that way
That's all I
no
want.
Yeah.
one can turn on a faucet, you got no water.
Yeah.
So that'll solve that, that's
Yeah.
control.
Okay.
Just no water connection, I can sign off that way. But then, indeed, it should be the septic plan showing the water connections and these building pipes. Now, you may run into a need for a waiver from the board at that time.
Yep.
Because your barn's gonna be greater than 50 feet
Yes.
probably from the septic.
So and that waiver would require a public hearing, so
So we can
getting
All
that.
that would
So
happen,
that-
yeah.
And so it sounds like we'd want to have the timing for that so that you're not delayed at some future date to say, let's do both chunks at the
You
same.
want to do both hearings at the same time,
Yeah,
so you gotta get that plan in at this,
Who's your engineer?
Right now, it's Elliott Pituro.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah,
did the
but
soil
he didn't
testing.
he didn't do the original septic, but he's the one who's sort of the
So-
soil
it won't
testing.
be,
Okay,
So-
whoever you wish.
Yeah.
But as
Can I
Ellen
just
said,
add-
I think Ellen brought out a good point. You probably want to try to get it all.
well, so just for clarifying questions though, in terms of sequencing, it sounds like time is your number one priority.
Yes.
Is it prudent to, like, will we get the plans for the other waivers? So like, it seems
he
like the
needs to
question.
do a septic alteration plan. And at this, whenever he does the septic alteration plan and asks for the waiver for the septic tank distance from the
From the
barn,
Yeah, 'cause I
he
think
should
it'd be
also ask
nice.
for the waiver from Appendix A at the same time.
And there's no risk that the septic plan, I just don't know
Oh,
what the
there
typical
is. I
turnaround
don't-
time, like if people
Yeah.
don't turn that in, you'd
That's
hate
right,
to
then we
say.
can't schedule the
We
hearing.
can't schedule
So
the
you gotta
hearing.
get that in.
So I think
I'll
it's,
get it in.
okay.
Yeah.
You just need it in.
When
You need
does-
5 copies.
And when did,
And what's
Letter.
what would be my deadline to get under the next closest hearing for all that, with all the, so would that be
Okay.
like 2
Yeah.
weeks, approximately 2 weeks from today?
4 weeks, I
No,
think.
no, it's
Well, I'm
4
saying-
weeks from the
But I'm
day I
saying to
get,
get you the stuff.
I
Yeah.
schedule the hearing, the first meeting after 4 weeks from the date I received the plan.
Oh, I see.
Because you have to get, you have
So
to
you can't
notify.
schedule it until 4 weeks, you get it, so if I
I
got
get
it to
it,
you
and then it'll be a
theoretically
month
tomorrow,
later.
you could do it
It'll
for
be a month
Got it.
later.
Okay,
And
If
understood.
it's 2 weeks from now, it'll be a month from
Understood.
then.
And are we doing the 13th and the 20th in
Yeah.
October?
No, in November.
so the October
October,
meetings are the
The
16th and the 16th.
16th.
Oh,
right?
weird,
And then
okay.
November 13th and November 20th. So from October 16th to November 13th.
So the goal then would be to try to get it to the 23rd, which would mean trying to get the plans in by Monday, right? 'Cause then it would be 1, 2, 3, I think I've got my count right. Oh, no, so,
No, it looks like it would be
the November
the
one?
November meeting, no matter what. But that actually,
Go give your engineer some
Yeah.
time. and then
Yeah.
and so forth to evaluate
Is there any scenario where the earlier meeting is feasible?
it's getting closer and closer because the earlier meeting is October 16th. It's already a month away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so it's the.
If I got you
November
something by
6th.
Friday.
No,
I think we're still not,
It's already
for,
passed.
because it's, you'd have to
It's
get it to us by
already passed.
yesterday, which is
By
gonna be tougher.
yesterday.
The notification to a
Yeah.
butter is becoming your issue.
Got
So
it.
you still want to be on a quick timeline.
yeah. So we're looking November
13th.
13th.
So November 13th would be the soonest.
Yeah.
And you would have to have your engineer call to set up that date, and that engineer would need to know the process for notification to the abutters.
And if there's an issue at that date,
And-
but that should be
and
totally doable, because
Oh,
there's
that
lots.
should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depend, but it's all dependent on.
But we also like-
The plans, the variance request letter from
But we
the
also then have the
engineer.
follow-up meeting on the 20th, so if there's some issue with the 13th, we,
Then
like,
it's
we're,
the
we have a
fall- the
weird
very
cycle in
next week.
November.
And then the appeal period is how long?
Never had an appeal.
Okay, so it's immediate,
Yeah.
so you can make an immediate ruling and then
Yeah.
we could theoretically be ready
Proceed.
to go
The
next
14th,
day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
What I would suggest is separate your final grade as built to the original engineer, because he probably has it. So give Paul a call,
Okay.
Paul's on here. He may already have it done, it's just, you know.
Well,
like, you know.
the whole grading plan is gonna be, well,
No, I mean the final grading for the septic system.
ooh, gotcha,
I never got that.
got it,
But again, that's why it's on a pending list still.
I see.
You might want to just clean that up.
Got
and
it,
that
of
solves
course,
that.
absolutely.
Do you feel like all your questions have been answered?
Would do.
Awesome.
And
You
you
guys
know
are gonna
that,
be so whatever, so how does Chris get the information know that when I come in with my building permit?
Well,
that I'll
come
be
in
good?
for the barn, you'll send a
Yeah.
control form with it, and then we'll flag it once we get it.
And you'll,
And I'll sign it off condition, as
On the-
shown.
on the
as
conditions
shown,
you
and
want,
no
yeah.
water.
Okay, good, perfect.
Until we
good.
get to the big
All
farm.
right, and then, so if that 13th meeting, Helen, is my deadline, when would I need yours? I guess by the October 13th, right, I guess is.
Yeah, but soon, you want to do it sooner.
Sooner than that, right? I'm just trying to know what
So-
my kind of my drop dead date is.
Number 13. So we're going,
Was it the 16th?
if you can, if you can get it the first week in October.
First week in
It would
October.
be
Okay,
it would be helpful to you.
Yes.
The second week in October, I can still schedule it.
yeah, by the end,
But it
so
would
by the
be-
end of the second week, which is, I think, goes to the 5th
October-
or 6th,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
So the end of the first week is October 6th.
Yeah,
that's that Friday.
yeah.
Okay,
The 4th is a
I can-
Friday. Awesome. Sounds good. Have
all
a
right,
good
thank you
night.
guys.
okay.
And ladies, thank you.
All right.
Am I good?
You're good.
Go drink beer? All
Absolutely.
right, thank you.
170 Forest Street.
It's not ready for approval, so.
Perfect.
I'll be getting back.
Triple E update.
I should have gotten the stamps while I was in there.
Mark,
just let
I
me
thought
get-
it was.
It's not ready for approval.
Because you told me it was ready for the
It wasn't
last.
Because the information you gave isn't ready, so I know
Oh,
you put it on, but it's
okay.
not ready for approval. Let me grab the stamps though.
Okay.
That 71 Harrington's ready for the stamps. Conditional to the deed recordings.
We have 71.
Okay. So, all right, Triple E update, we did get sprayed, now I'm forgetting which night, but it's
Sunday
shown
night.
on that, thank you.
Sunday night.
In there, by the state, just so folks know. The spraying was determined by the state, Mass DPH, and also the mosquito control program. So it was not anything that we are really asked to weigh in on for that. And I'm going to make the assumption that it's because mosquitoes can move around and they're trying to look at area-wide control of Triple E. On the website, I did note that it mentions that they were using Anvil 10+10 as the pesticide that would be sprayed. They spray at night because that's when the mosquitoes that are going to carry it are active. I believe Ellen, you mentioned that it's 40 to 80% effective
Yeah,
against
it hits flying.
flying mosquitoes. So doesn't do anything to affect the larvae or eggs or whatever earlier stages there might be. And certainly birds and other animals that may be carrying the virus. I think from what we've been able to read, it's mostly birds that it's transmitted from. There's some literature that says if horses have Triple E, they don't believe that the virus is in a dense enough concentration to be transmitted to a mosquito from one source, true or not. So, in any case, there are still sources for triple E, there are still mosquitoes that survive, and there are still mosquitoes coming. So the important part of that is that taking protective measures for your person, whether that's the clothing you wear, the activities, and what time of day it's done, and whether you're wearing any sort of insect repellent, are still very important pieces, and no one should feel that because of the spraying now everything is completely safe. So, but it does reduce the risk, and presumably the population of infected mosquitoes. So, does anyone have any other particular comment on that? I did a bit of research though on the
Anvil 10 plus 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the 10 plus 10 refers to, there are two ingredients, and I'm not going to say them right because one, I've never heard them said out loud and I can't recall the spelling of one, but it's permethrin.
And Symethrin, I think. I might be pronouncing them wrong.
Piperonyl.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Butoxide. And so the first one is the active pesticide. The second one is a synergistic chemical. I couldn't find any information that says exactly what, but that doesn't matter so much. And they're both at 10%, so they're equal percentages in what gets sprayed. On the mosquito control website, they do mention that the first one, the active ingredient, breaks down when exposed to sunlight within a day, roughly. I mean, there's some range of hours there, and I'm not sure what effect conditions might have, sunnier day, cloudy day, uncertain on that. The other one, which is not, so they're talking about that after roughly a day, that it's no longer present. The other ingredient can persist, has a half-life, depending on conditions and where it is, anaerobic, aerobic, in water, up to 930, so some days for the half-life. So, and it's ranked as a possible carcinogen, and it is also, I believe, in the category of potential endocrine disruptor. And so those are issues for low volume, so people should still be careful if you have food outside, gardens, fruit trees, whatever else. And just be mindful that it may be there. I have no idea what kind of concentration or application rates were used, but it's not innocuous. So I just wanted to make sure people understood that. The half-life was 80 to 930 something days, depending on where it is. So it is considered by, and this is, government agency research and what have you, just basic chemical information about that's available. Darn, what else was I going to say? Potential. Oh well, gone. So, but
yeah, I mean, I wish people would not panic, because the most important thing is to protect yourself against mosquito bites individually. Yes. And the risk is still low, even though there have been a few cases. It's much.
And it is a horrific virus.
Yeah.
So.
But it is also.
This is right. That
low probability.
So I don't know if you have any comments on that. So then the next part of this is that there's been an emergency waiver application submitted from Pine Hill School for our review and possible approval. And it's, at the moment, I'm only aware that there is one parent who would like to see the grounds of Pine Hill School sprayed. Ellen contacted, I don't know, would you like to say what mosquito control recommended from that? You had
I
that
would
very
think
nice
that
memo
sufficient
on that.
protection would be gained from the
Yeah, I
aerial
spoke-
spraying,
I
because if it's true that it's
spoke with-
90 days, that's 3 months.
I
It's
spoke
gonna be
with
frozen.
the executive director at the Central Mass Mosquito Control, and he explained that Sunday night, the whole town had been sprayed. It was a bit premature to do additional ground spraying. He didn't feel it was.
So if something was larval, it's not a skeeter yet.
Right, it wouldn't be necessary. And that when there was ground spraying in Sherborn, it was in a different area because that was where the positive mosquito pool was found. It was not found near Pine Hill School. So they typically recommend the ground spraying in the area where the positive mosquito pool was. There isn't one near Pine Hill School, so he did not recommend it. He said if the school wants it,
But sort of,
they
if you
will
have,
do it.
if you
but-
don't think there's added efficacy for pesticide application in general, one would
Right.
say, we should limit the amount of pesticides that we
Exactly.
disperse. If a
Right.
governmental agency or control agency says this is recommended, then that's a
Then-
different scenario. But if
Right.
they're like, you don't need to do this, I'm not sure that I'd want to say like, do it anyway.
And then people might think that, well, Central Mass Mosquito Control is spraying other areas. Well, they will at the homeowner's request.
Yeah.
So if someone sees them spraying another
So
property, it's.
Who would need to be the requesting body for Pine Hill?
Oh,
But
for
like if
Pine
it-
Hill,
like,
the
right.
school.
I would,
So
I
that
would,
would be like,
And that's the emergency waiver request.
and so is the school requesting to spray?
They
Are they
submitted
requesting
that.
permission to spray so that if they need to spray, they're able to do
I
so?
think there's more seeking our guidance,
Yeah.
but to get us to review it
Yeah.
means submitting an application.
So if Pine Hill independently arrived at saying, we think it's important to spray based on our perceptions as school or getting some other guidance, I wouldn't want to be the rate limiting step that prevented them from spraying. I would say the advice from Board of Health seems like it's based on the advice of experts. There's no evidence that this would provide a protective benefit to our children.
Right.
And our general approach and other philosophical things is minimize pesticide exposure. And so if nobody's saying, here is guidance from an expert that this will be beneficial, my own bias would be limit pesticide exposure
Yeah.
to kids.
Mine as well, and I think that people can take, increase the level of personal protection that they have and do that on a case-by-case basis, because although there's been one parent who requested this, and maybe there would be more, but we know that there are also parents who are concerned that their children not be exposed
Right.
to that and have a choice on how they manage it. So I would also not.
So my
In
bias
favor
would be,
of
can I make
the
a
waiver.
comment, because you guys all spoke? I also think that the risk of exposure to an endocrine disruptor for a child is a higher concern than the risk of mosquitoes when aerial spraying has been done that's to the level of recommendation of the Department of Public Health.
Yeah.
And especially since we have well water, we also don't know what the risk to the wells could be. And I think that we need to weigh the risks and the probabilities, and the probability of something in the water supply might be higher than the risk of actually getting infected by a mosquito after it's spraying.
So I'm glad you said that, because maybe that's what I didn't say. You could tell me if I did. But it's also ranked that other contaminant, piperonal butoxide, if I'm
Yeah.
saying that at all close to correctly, is considered a groundwater contaminant because its half-life is so long that it
Yeah.
can have enough time to reach both surface waters and groundwaters. So that is
so how does that, so.
noted in databases that way.
So my personal thought right now is that I would be okay approving the waiver application, but my advice to the school would be, don't do it?
So
Versus is our intent to forbid the school from doing it?
So I spoke with Andrew Keough, who was the superintendent, and through his office is
Yep.
where this came from. So they just wanted to submit it to get the feedback. They have taken measures right from the start of changing scheduled activities to make sure that children were not out close to dusk. They moved up from dusk to a
And I
half
think
hour
there's
before.
like a
They
blast
canceled
communication and
games.
other pieces
Yeah,
to say these
they-
are the steps we're taking, like we got, you
Right.
know.
They were very proactive. I think
Yeah.
they did great things, and those were pretty big steps to take for, I'm assuming that for students who are in their senior year and aren't getting to play Friday night football, that's a big decision.
Yeah.
But certainly in the interest of protecting the children. So I think they've done the right thing. They know that the area has been sprayed as part of the mosquito control project. So they're not necessarily looking to do it, but they just want to get our input, so.
It would be safer for the parents to put DEET on their children before they come to school than to spray the ground. In addition to the
Yes.
damage to all the other birds and
Right, and
and
then it
insects
makes,
and things.
for how long do people have to worry about touching something and then touching food?
Right.
Because for the one component,
But they also have
that will be gone, but the other component is going to be
Right.
around
They
for
also
quite
have a
some
garden
time.
on the school grounds.
Oh.
Just so
But they
the
can-
board knows, Central Mass
Oh, yes.
Mosquito Control
Yeah.
uses a product called Zenivex E4. It's different from the Anvil 10+10 for their ground spraying, so it wouldn't be the Anvil 10, it wouldn't be the Anvil 10+10. Again, though, it's similar, so.
We have something that's been sprayed over the entire town that has a 90-day half-life, and we're going to absolutely have a frost before then.
Yeah.
I think we are probably,
Except that ingredient, I don't know what the purpose of it is. It was just listed as synergist, so that might aid in dispersal or anti-clumping. I have no idea.
Yeah,
what
but it's
for.
10%,
The other thing
yeah.
is what addresses.
So in terms of
students,
acting on
so-
the waiver application, like what are you thinking? Oh, yeah.
If you approve it, I have to send it to Central Mass Mosquito Control. They will then work with the school and it'll get sprayed.
Yeah. So if
But
we approve
I
it,
believe when Dr. Keough sent me an email saying, okay, just hold it. And if, I explained to him that at the end of this week, there'll be more results from testing of mosquito pools in the area. If there's another positive, I'll get notified by the end of the week.
yeah.
If I get notified of a positive at the end of the week and it's near Pine Hill School, we'll have that and it can be approved then.
So
Okay. So
one
how would it
option
get-
is to potentially have a motion to say, hold this pending further
Yeah.
information.
yeah,
Right.
I think that's
Later
the
this week.
wise,
And is there a
that
span?
wiser approach.
I think that sounds really reasonable from my standpoint. Is there, it sounds like part of the decision-making here is that there's no benefit in part because we have the aerial spraying on the 15th.
Right.
How long does the aerial spraying provide a benefit such that ground spraying would, like, is that something we'd
Yeah,
say?
it's By
Indef-
next week, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think
by,
it lasts.
right, so if we
Other
say,
than-
Except the
No, it
10%
doesn't.
that has a 90-day half-life.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that's the other ingredient.
No, but it'll be present.
Yeah.
That'll
Well,
be present.
if I can, just, I have it right in
Yeah.
front of me, and
Yeah.
it's, you can go to Central Mass Mosquito Control Program, and you'll see it. The LD50 is,
I think this is the other agent, so I think this
But-
is,
oh,
so I
but they're
think this
not-
is the
He's
state.
talking the aerial.
but the Anvil 10+10 will not be sprayed by Central Mass
Right.
Mosquito.
Right, so I think the question is how durable a benefit do we get from the aerial spraying that occurred on the 15th, such that,
Yeah, that's the
What they
question.
had explained to me is that by the end of this week, I
that
mean, that
benefit
was
will
this
be
week.
exhausted?
Yeah, that, if, I talked to him
A lot.
yesterday. So yesterday was way too soon. Today,
So I think what I would suggest is that we reach out to the Central Mass Mosquito Control to say how, like, at what point, because I think part of the rationale we have is if aerial spraying is still
once-
effective,
well,
double.
Well, they're not gonna do aerial spraying anymore.
No, but we've already had that. So if we're
Yeah.
saying the
They'll
reason it
only-
doesn't,
Once the temperature falls below 60, they do limited ground spraying. Below 50 degrees, they cannot spray.
right, so the
So-
question I
Didn't it
have
fall
is-
below 50 today?
No, but I think durably, so it's
It's
like.
gonna
if
be
I-
40s in the 40s
They
tonight.
won't spray.
And I
Well,
think
that's
like, but if it's
area
80,
and-
if it's 80 in 3 days, then they would
Yeah.
spray if it were 60 at night.
Yeah.
So it's not, it touches it once, it's when is it staying below that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the question I have for Central Mass is, right now, it sounds like part of the reason we're recommending to hold on this is we believe there's no additive benefit to ground spraying in the context of still active aerial spraying. If a week from today, that's no longer true,
Well, it also, not only because of the aerial spraying,
But
but
the
because there's
no
no
tested positives.
positives
Okay.
in
Right.
the area.
Okay.
So I actually
You have to
don't want to
reevaluate.
So the
try
testing
to
positive-
do all of the calculations of positive thing or length of time passed. I'd rather just leave it and just see what information comes in. I
Okay.
think,
Yeah.
because it seems too complicated to say, to do all
Right.
that now.
And I think that it's
So-
also the question of like, if you're spraying in the setting of negative test results, how do you decide what areas are important to keep safe? Like,
Right.
So we
like
have
you're
to,
not spraying the playground.
each person can take individual extra caution.
Yeah.
That, there's nothing stopping that.
Right.
And the Department of Public Health wants everyone to be safe. So they obviously put a lot of thought into
Yeah,
the decision of what to do, how, and when.
I think that's.
So I think we just reevaluate, see how things go, and keep, hope.
Okay,
I think that
the
sounds
other
reasonable.
thing to consider is if we had to have an emergency meeting, I'll just, we'll keep that in mind, that that might be an issue where we have to convene for 15 minutes to go over something and just get a quorum of whoever's available, so, right, because our next
I'll bring
meeting
the
is
big-
too far
Authorize
off.
me to sign it. It's not,
So-
it doesn't have,
Yeah,
but you
but
want to make the
I'm not
decision.
sure that
You want to make the
there's a lot
decision.
of, there's some situations I might
Yeah.
not
Still
be as
recommend it, yeah.
enthusiastic, like
Because I think what
if
we're
frost was on the horizon,
'Cause
I
I-
don't know,
'cause I think
even though
what-
this other pesticide seems much less toxic, but I'd
But
have
it's
to
also
read
like-
other sources
Yeah.
that aren't the promo.
You know what's
from-
interesting?
But it's
is-
also like what we're waiving is notification to parents and families, and so
Yeah.
again, it's sort of different than saying, can I, right?
Well, you're really,
And
you're
I'll refer to
notifying,
the site, but this I found.
you're waiving the notification before the spraying takes place. They
Right.
still have to notify after.
Right, but I think if you're saying, I'm waiving, you're waiving
Yeah.
notification to families of, hey, we're gonna spray.
But how are they measuring
Right.
And,
toxicity?
like,
Like
that's
what,
not-
what variables are they
After.
using to
Hey, we
measure
sprayed.
toxicity?
Yeah.
And so like, I think that's
Right.
also, it's not just the question of, should they spray or not spray? We think they should not
Oh, see,
spray,
it's
but
this
is the
phenolphthalein.
reason to spray
It's
so
not
compelling that
permethrin,
we should
that's
bypass
something different.
Yep.
parental
What's in the
notification?
Advil
Right.
is the phenolphthalein.
Yeah, I feel good.
They say, I'm just for the record, I'm
Yeah.
showing the Lowell Central Mass Mosquitoes Control Program, and maybe for the record, Ellen, you can copy that page, because I shouldn't be showing you.
I don't know
I don't
what
want you taking my computer.
Can I see, can you push it closer so I can,
This is, you can print this. This basically is what they did, is they
I-
want people to know what they're spraying from the trucks. So in the LD, it's a lot different from the
Oh,
Anti-10
pyrethrin's
plus
and
10,
permethrin.
And it doesn't contain that
Right.
piperonel. I hope I pronounced that right. So, but the LD50 is comparison charts are there too. Again, just for your knowledge, I didn't want you to think I'm showing one person one thing. It's under the Central Mass Mosquito Control website, what's in the product.
tofen?
Okay, so,
The ground spraying,
For ground spraying, it's totally different from aerial
oh, I
spraying.
know.
Yeah, but it would be, I think,
I
considering
think
we
we're
all
done.
drink.
So I think we're holding
Yeah, I
so
think
that.
let's-
that, I think
We're
we
gonna
not
hold the
worry,
application
we
and
not
convene.
panic.
do we have a motion to just put the application on hold?
Pending additional
pending
testing results.
Additional information.
Yeah.
So moved?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect.
And
I
then,
think
just quickly, the last thing on that, should I be reaching out, because Dover Board of Health has been providing different kinds of information to the town do we want to reach out to them since we have the regional school that we're sharing, even though it's their jurisdiction? It's
I would
Dover,
leave
but-
it, I would leave it go.
Okay.
Because I think it's really complicated to get consensus.
Yeah.
And so
I'm
I
not
think
so
that
sure
both
we
can be jurisdictionally active, but
Okay.
even if they say, we disagree with your assessment, they can do something different.
Right.
Just as Ashland could do something different.
Everybody can put permethrin on their skin, wear extra clothes, stay inside
Yeah.
at the risky areas.
Oh, one of the things that
Burn.
the parent had mentioned is, gee, Dover's doing something different, so it kind of got
Yeah.
them going like, why aren't we also taking those measures? So,
I think we're doing the same thing in that Board of Health is evaluating available data, making a judgment about it. Two different boards might reach two
Right.
different conclusions, and I
Right.
think we have articulated the basis for ours.
yeah, okay. All right,
It could be a beer drinker because you know, Brew Fest, they ground screen for Brew Fest 2 weeks ago.
Oh, good.
I'm-
A beer
I'm sure
drinker.
it in.
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny. Sorry.
Got no showing.
Yeah.
No shows for Brew Fest.
It looked like there was a great turnout, at least as we were driving by it.
When is it?
It happened already.
It was 2 weeks
That's what I
ago.
thought. Okay, but
They did
okay,
an
when you say
aerial-
you hope there is a
they did
big
an aerial
turnout.
spraying, but they held it at night, you know,
Yeah.
it's just like, whatever, 7, 10 p.m.
Yeah. Well, I think that, my recollection is, I think it was like a pretty active weather night, so I suspect mosquito activity was low. And it was 2 weeks ago and everybody did fine, so they're past the incubation period. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're just onto warrants and payroll.
no, we have
Oh.
the Coolidge Street.
Oh.
Oh, there are other business, all I'm saying, we're,
And then after this item, Rick, we just have paperwork afterwards, so you'll be able to
All right,
end our broadcast, so.
Coolidge Street,
I thought it was a septic, I said, I don't remember that.
the one-day food establishment permit.
I know where that is now.
Yeah, so are you recommending?
I would recommend the temporary one-day food permit conditional to them updating their certification as a food handler. There's two certifications. One's a certified food manager, which I did leave a message with the person who has the certificate that that would be the suggested one, but because it's nonprofit, it can't be required. But he submitted a certified food handler certificate, which is outdated. So I asked that he consider updating it. And to get that is more or less on website. It's not expensive to do, so hopefully he'll do that. An allergen certificate would be the other one,
Okay,
because they're serving the public, they want to be aware of any allergies.
okay,
and
and it looks
ask
like
about
they
that.
have some time, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they won't
Yes.
wait to the last minute, but, okay. All right, so do you need any, I guess do we have a motion to allow you to sign off on the permit?
Yeah,
Is that-
I'll enter my
Issue the
site,
To issue the permit,
conditional to that,
additional to
get
those.
appropriate
uh,
certifications for food handling as well as for allergen
Okay.
certificate.
That,
So moved.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Perfect.
All right, Rick, we're just signing things and, so, oh, okay, thanks.
Have a good
So
night.
that woman calls Ellen, the woman, the dog lady. She left her whole clipboard and all her papers.
Oh, okay,
Clementia, I think is her name.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I think
this
we've got
this was
the-
in the, she has her name on.